Chapter 383. What are you two talking about? Why are you so happy? Dr. Fan's face was also full of joy. Dr. Fan, take good care of Imperial Physician Yao. I will take my leave first. Yun Xing walked away with a smile. But what Dr. Fan didn't know was that in Yun Xing's beast language ring, there was an extra map. This map was provided by Yao Rong. In the map, the locations and names of all the 180 main pharmacies of the Imperial Medicine Pavilion in Zhou State were clearly distributed. After obtaining the map, Yun Xing also looked for Zhong Yi. What, you said you want to find more than 100 giant-winged green bats? I say, little master, you still haven't learned your lesson. Look at Zhou Chutsuan this time. In my opinion, even if you want to find a flying magical beast, you should find a more ferocious one. After Zhong Yi learned about Zhou Chutsuan, he was angry. He almost killed his way to the Imperial Medicine Pavilion. No, it's still the giant-winged green bat. After all, if it's another ferocious magical beast, the villagers won't be able to subdue it. But this time, I want to transform the giant-winged green bat. Yun Xing's eyes flashed. After the incident with Zhou Chutsuan, Qi Fangfei was very vigilant for a long time. She originally thought that Yao Rong would die after being injured by her, but who knew that she would come back to life? Moreover, with the protection of Yun Songlong and others, it was impossible for her to kill Yao Rong. Qi Fangfei was very worried because Yao Rong was different from Fan Ji. She was the core figure of the Imperial Medicine Pavilion and knew too many secrets. But after waiting for nearly 3 months, there was still no movement from little Ci Entong. At Zhou Chutsuan's side, the villagers were still working as usual. Everything looked normal. The other villages also didn't dare to plant medicinal herbs for little Ci Entong. Qi Fangfei's deterrent effect was basically achieved. This time, Zhou Chutsuan's medicinal herbs matured again. Qi Fangfei paid close attention to Zhou Chutsuan's situation. After learning that Zhou Chutsuan still recklessly planted medicinal herbs after suffering a heavy blow, Qi Fangfei smiled coldly. Cheng Sihai, find the hunting group from last time and sneak into Zhou Chutsuan tonight. Infiltrate Zhouchu village? What do you mean by that? After Yao Rong and Fan Ji reconciled, Cheng Sihai was so jealous that he wanted to die. Right now he was playing the role of Qi Fangfei's lackey. What's the use of keeping those villagers who don't learn their lesson? Bring people and massacre Zhouchu village. Remember to destroy their medicinal fields as well. Then, make it look like the mountain bandits exterminating the village. Qi Fangfei's expression was fierce as she spoke. Hearing this, Cheng Sihai felt his scalp go numb. Thinking of killing hundreds of people in the village, Cheng Sihai also felt that it was a bit too much. However, he did not dare to disobey Qi Fangfei. Yao Rong was his example. Cheng Sihai spent a large sum of money and hired the same hunting group from last time to sneak into Zhouchu village. At night, when all the villagers of Zhouchu village had turned off their lights and gone to bed, the nearly 100 hunters quietly approached the village entrance. The village was silent. Occasionally, only the cries of wild cats could be heard. Dr. Cheng, are we really going to kill them all? The leader of the hunting group also felt a chill in his heart. They were just hunters, not killers. Kill them all. Don't leave a single one alive. These blind people have provoked the Medicine Imperial Pavilion time and time again. This time we'll make an example out of them. Cheng Sihai made a beheading gesture. The hunters moved, blocking the various entrances of the village. Dr. Cheng, something seems wrong. Didn't you say that the medicinal plants in the village have all matured? Why is there nothing in the medicinal fields? Several hunters scattered around the medicinal fields. Other than killing people, Qi Fangfei also gave the order to destroy the medicinal fields in the village. Today was the 15th. The moonlight was very good. There was only one full moon in the sky. Under the moonlight, Cheng Sihai could clearly see the situation in the medicinal field. He looked at the medicinal field. He looked over and found that there really was nothing in the medicinal fields. All the medicinal plants had already been harvested. It was as if someone had already known that there would be a night attack and had harvested them in advance. His eyelids twitched. Like a cat whose tail had been stepped on, he jumped up. No, there must be a trap in the village. Everyone, go and get the villagers. Before Cheng Sihai could finish his sentence, he heard a sound that made his heart go numb from the top of his head. The hunters also heard the sound and looked up at the night sky. A full moon hung high in the sky. Around the moon, there were dense, dark clouds. Those were not ordinary dark clouds. Those were magical beasts. More than 100 magical beasts densely packed together. They were all giant-winged green bats. The leader was a dragon-clawed bat king. There was a person standing on top of it. He held a magic scepter in his hand. The zone personality looked down at the dumbfounded ants below. TSK. Little Master's guess was right. You useless things still haven't given up. This time you want to massacre Zhou village, right? Today I'll let you get what you want. Massacre once. The zone personality waved his hands and the giant winged green bats in the sky immediately changed their formation. A summoner? But he actually wanted to control a group of giant winged green bats that didn't know how to defend or attack. The hunters couldn't help but heave a sigh of relief. They had already fought with the giant winged green bats once. Although the number of bats had greatly increased this time, their manpower was also many times more than before. Leader, Dr. Cheng, the village is completely empty. We didn't see a single villager. The hunter who went to catch the villagers in the house turned back. Everyone don't panic. The other party only has one summoner. We have more than enough to deal with this group of bats. Together shoot towards the sky. Cheng Sihai finally understood that he had fallen into Yun Sheng's trap. However, the other party had also underestimated their strength. They could escape as long as they broke through the village. That's not right, Dr. Cheng. There seems to be something on the mouths and legs of those bats. The leader of the hunters had sharp eyes. He saw that the giant winged green bats were different from the last time. Their mouths, legs and claws were all biting and grabbing something. Suddenly, almost 100 giant winged green bats released their mouths and claws at the same time. One by one, unknown objects flashing with magical elements fell from the sky. The zone personality had already brought the group of bats and quickly rose into the sky. Boom, boom, boom. In an instant, the entire Zhou village was engulfed in flames and explosions. The sound was so loud and the fire was so intense that it dyed the nearby mountains red. Those hunters didn't even have time to think carefully before the tumbling heat waves and ferocious magical elements had already torn them apart and exploded them into ashes. The reason for this effect was that Yun Sheng had been intensively researching during this period of time. Referring to the magic weapon encyclopedia, Yun Sheng had created the first magic weapon, Sky Blasting Thunder. Chapter 384. Last time, the green bat was severely injured because of its poor defense and attack power. Yun Sheng thought for a long time until she saw the gigantic winged green bat flying. She thought of the modern fighter jet. As long as the gigantic winged green bat was equipped with a powerful weapon, it would be able to instantly destroy a large number of enemies with a little training during the transportation process in the future. Even if the gigantic winged green bat did not have any attack power, it would still be able to instantly destroy a large number of enemies with a little training. Yun Sheng told the Zhong Wei her idea. The Zhong Wei thought about it and suggested that the summoned beasts could be equipped with magic weapons. It turned out that in Penglai, there were also some summoners who would equip their summoned beasts with the corresponding magic weapons. These magic weapons could help the summoned beasts and play an unexpected role when the summoner was in danger. Although Yun Sheng was a summoner because she was born in Zhou State, a country with very few summoners, her understanding of summoners was limited. The Zhong Wei came from Penglai, so he had seen and heard much more than Yun Sheng. When he heard that Yun Sheng didn't know that the summoned beasts could carry magic weapons, the Zhong Wei felt a little strange. Could it be that the Emperor Zhao didn't tell Yun Sheng about this? However, the Zhong Wei didn't dare to ask more and just explained in detail. Yun Sheng was very smart and quickly understood. So she spent a few days searching through the magic weapons encyclopedia and finally found a magic weapon called the Sky Blasting Thunder. Its principle was like a modern time bomb. It sealed the violent thunder element magic on a specific magic material and then activated the magic array on it when it was about to be used. Yun Sheng didn't understand thunder element magic, but her thunder explosion vortex was much more powerful than thunder element magic. After a few experiments, Yun Sheng successfully refined the Sky Blasting Thunder. Then she handed it to the Zhong Wei and asked him to train the gigantic winged green bat. Finally, this batch of magic weapons was successfully refined before the herbs matured and were installed on the gigantic winged green bat one by one. This was how the previous scene happened. After developing all of this, Zhong Yi went to Zhou village a few days before the herbs matured and asked the villagers to collect the herbs in advance. That night, the villagers secretly evacuated from a small path behind the village to the foot of the mountain. When the villagers heard that they could take revenge, they were all very cooperative. They pretended to go to sleep with the lights off, but in fact they rushed down the mountain overnight. Not long after they arrived at the foot of the mountain, the village chief and the villagers heard a huge tremor on the mountain. Billowing flames and smoke soared into the sky. They understood that Zhong Yi had already killed all the hunters. This group of villagers, who had always been obedient, had a carefree look in their eyes at this moment. The village chief and his wife hugged each other and murmured, "Little Hua, you should rest in peace now. Miracle Dr. Yun has avenged you and everyone else." As the flames soared into the sky, another operation was quietly beginning. If the fire in Zhouchu village was a prairie fire, then the hundreds of medicinal farms of the Medicine Emperor Pavilion in Zhou State were facing a spark of fire. As the most authoritative medical establishment in the entire continent, the Medicine Emperor Pavilion, other than having an endless supply of medical talents, also relied on their supply of medicinal herbs for survival. Their medicinal farms were all built on the most fertile soil of the various countries. There were professional farmers there to help them grow and take care of the medicinal herbs. Every year, June and December were the peak seasons for the Medicine Emperor Pavilion to harvest medicinal herbs. On this night, in the largest medicinal farm of the Medicine Emperor Pavilion, the farmers had just fallen asleep. In this medicinal farm, the Medicine Emperor Pavilion's most precious Saint-grade red Lulan ginseng was planted. Other than that, there were also large amounts of precious medicinal herbs. There was only half a month left until the harvest season in June. Looking at the growth of the medicinal herbs in the field, it could be seen that this year would be a bumper harvest for medicinal herbs. Every year during the harvest season, there would be some people who were not afraid of death sneaking into the medicinal farms to steal medicinal herbs. Therefore, a few magicians were specially arranged to set up a magic array around the medicinal farms. As long as someone entered this area, the magic array would send out a warning. This night it was very quiet the entire night. On the morning of the second day, the farmers got up and prepared to sow the soil before the dew dried up. One of the farmers sleepily walked to the medicinal farm of the red Lulan ginseng that he was in charge of. When he saw the situation in the medicinal farm, he was instantly scared out of his wits and sat down on the ridge of the medicinal farm. Not good. The medicinal farm has been destroyed by people. At the same time, more than half of the medicinal farms in the Medicine Emperor Pavilion had similar incidents. The medicinal herbs in the medicinal farm were in a mess. The leaves and fruits were all eaten clean. That situation was like a plague of locusts. But the most unbelievable thing was that the magic arrays in the vicinity were all safe and sound. There were no signs of being invaded by people or magical beasts. But the medicinal farm was indeed destroyed, and the destruction was very thorough. All of the medicinal herbs had lost their medicinal value overnight, becoming worthless waste. In the Medicine Emperor Pavilion, Qi Fangfei was still anxiously waiting for news from Zhou Chutsuan. Cheng Sihai had been gone for a day and a night. Counting the hour, they should be back by now. Medicine Man Qi. A doctor from the Medicine Emperor Pavilion ran over with a horrified expression. "What are you shouting for so early in the morning?" Qi Fangfei was impatient. Medicinal farm, medicinal farm. That doctor was out of breath. Success? Hearing that the medicinal farm, Qi Fangfei's face was filled with joy. Qi Fangfei already knew that Yun Sheng had returned to the Jade Capital. 3 months had passed and there was still no news from that lass. From the looks of it, she also knew that she could not win against the Medicine Emperor Pavilion, taking advantage of her illness to take her life. Qi Fangfei wanted to take advantage of this bloodbath in Zhou Chutsuan to make Yun Sheng completely collapse. It's gone. It's all gone. Our herbs from all over the country, including several major pharmacies in other countries, including a large number of precious herbs and a batch of sage herbs that were about to mature, are all gone overnight. The pharmacist was on the verge of tears. The Medicine Emperor Pavilion had been established for so many years and had never suffered such a huge loss. Medicinal farms? Qi Fangfei was stunned. She grabbed that doctor who reported the news. "How many medicinal farms did you say?" If something happened to one medicinal farm, it could still be barely acceptable. But dozens of medicinal farms in the continent, and all of them were the main medicinal farms, were all destroyed in one night. Even if it was a mercenary, it was impossible to destroy so many medicinal farms in such a short period of time. All the medicinal herbs were destroyed, but they could not find any clues about the intruder. These were all the main sources of medicinal herbs for the Medicine Emperor Pavilion for the next half a year. Who did it? Who on earth did this? Could it be that there is no clue at all? Qi Fangfei thought of little Ci Entong at the first moment. Chapter 385. Not good, Medicine Man Qi. Another wave of anxious voice sounded. A doctor stumbled into the room while supporting a man whose entire body was almost burnt to charcoal. That person who was burnt beyond recognition was barely recognizable as Cheng Sihai. Dead. They're all dead. Cheng Sihai's body leaned forward as soon as he finished speaking. He fell to the ground and stopped breathing. The smell of burnt flesh and the horrifying corpse was placed in front of Medicine Man Qi. Qi Fangfei's heart felt as if it was grabbed by someone and she couldn't breathe. Who sent him back? Qi Fangfei squeezed out a sentence from between her teeth. It seems to be a flying demonic beast that dropped you off at the entrance of our Medicine Emperor Pavilion. There was even a person sitting on the back of the demonic beast. He wanted me to pass a message to Medicine Man Qin. Thank you for your 3 months of time. The person who brought the message didn't understand what the other party meant. But Qi Fangfei's eyes widened. 3 months of time? Could it be that in these 3 months, 3 months of time was not a long time and it was just the right time for a complete medicinal herb to grow? At the same time, it also allowed Yun Xing to find a way to increase the strength of the giant winged green bat. At the same time, it also allowed Yun Xing to deploy the ant soldiers of the centipede ant general. On the mainland, what kind of magical beast was the most abundant? It wasn't rats or birds, but the most abundant magical beast was the beast ant. 3 months of time was enough for the centipede ant general to cross half of the boundless land and gather the ant soldiers from all over the world. Not to mention dozens of major medicine shops. Even if there were hundreds of them, it was nothing in the eyes of the beast ant general. What ordinary hunters couldn't achieve was insignificant in front of the beast ant general. Qi Fangfei looked at the already dead Qing Sihai on the ground, and then looked at the panicked doctor. She only felt that the world was spinning. After a long while, she spat out a sentence, "Go and invite Wen de Guizhou." It was really ice and fire. When the Medicine Emperor Pavilion fell into an unprecedented desperate situation, the little Ci Antong finally received the first batch of medicinal herbs. Lin Yaoer and GMO busied themselves for an entire day before they managed to clean up the sea buckthorns. The quality of the sea buckthorn is very good, enough to reach the first grade. About 10% of the herbs have even reached the special grade. It seems that the method of using magic to cultivate herbs is feasible. GMO breathed a sigh of relief, his pair of bright eyes secretly glancing at Yun Sheng. Unlike Lin and Ji, who were extremely busy, Yun Sheng was sitting in the clinic, drinking the iced sour plum soup that Yao Rong had prepared early in the morning. She had a satisfied look on her face. Sitting beside her was Xiao Yun, who had recovered. Yun Sheng and Xiao Yun hit it off very well. Due to Xiao Hua's death, Yun Sheng felt very guilty towards Xiao Yun and the village chief's family. She also secretly discovered that Xiao Yun was very talented as a summoner. Seeing Xiao Yun and Yun Sheng having so much fun, GMO became even more curious. During this period of time, Yun Sheng appeared to be unusually calm, which made it difficult for GMO to guess what she was thinking. Could it be that the blood feud between the little Ci Antong and the Medicine Emperor Pavilion was over? As they were speaking, the Zone personality also returned. "Little Master, everything went smoothly. I have already thrown the charred Qing Sihai at the entrance of the Medicine Emperor Pavilion. Ah, did you see that group of bastards? They were so scared that their faces turned pale?" The Zone personality exclaimed happily. He had been a summoner for so long, and this was the first time he had felt so good fighting and killing. Looking at the raging flames on the ground, turning a group of evil men into ashes, he felt his entire body relax. Unfortunately, he did not get to see Qi Fangfei's face when she heard the news. This was not the first time the Zone personality had lost face. Last time he had lost a Zhou state's crown prince, and this time he had lost a Qing Sihai. That feeling was much better than drinking the sour plum soup. Have the villagers been settled? Yun Sheng took a sip of the sour plum soup. In such a 6-month period, drinking a mouthful of sour soup was a great joy in the world. Yes, they have been settled. I have already asked the villagers to move the village to the foot of the mountain, where the water is more abundant. The Zone personality did not stand on ceremony, grabbing a bowl of iced sour plum soup and drinking it. Lin Yao and GMO both had a confused look on their faces. They did not understand what the two of them were talking about. The Zone personality could not hold it in any longer, and he looked at Yun Sheng with a look of worship. "Little Master, actually I am very curious. Besides blowing up the village, what else did you do?" The Zone personality noticed that when he threw the people down, the faces of the Medicine Emperor Pavilion members were as if their mother had died. Just blowing up a group of unrelated hunters, they would not have such a reaction. Thinking about it, it must have been his little master who did something. Blowing up Zhou Chutsuan. Hearing this news, even GMO couldn't help but raise his brow. The answer will come soon. Yun Sheng calculated that the people of the Medicine Emperor Pavilion should come in an hour. They are here. The smile on Yun Sheng's lips disappeared. Outside the medical hall, several people came. Qi Fangfei, with a face full of anger, and several of the most important doctors of the Medicine Emperor Pavilion, led by the white-haired Wen Daiguoshu. Even when Daiguoshu came out, Yao Rong and Dr. Fan also came out. Lin Yao quickly closed the medical hall. In the narrow medical hall for the first time, there were so many people. Yao Rong's face was full of embarrassment. She and Wen Daiguoshu had a deep master and disciple relationship. She did not expect that they would meet again after a long time in such a scene. Wen Daiguoshu looked at the small Ciantong. This was a medium-sized medical hall, but it was well managed. Inside, the medicine cabinets, medicinal herbs, and pharmacopoeia were all neatly arranged. Because it was operated together with ancient medicine, there was a special corner where various colors of magical herbs were placed. The overall layout of the small Ciantong was completely different from that of the Medicine Emperor Pavilion. There was no style of the Medicine Emperor Pavilion, but at the same time, there was a warm feeling of home. When Daiguoshu and other people did not know that the layout of the small Ciantong was based on the layout of her ancestral small clinic in her previous life. Yan Yunsheng's grandfather had always practiced medicine by letting the patients feel like they were at home. This point Yunsheng had inherited it very well. When Daiguoshu entered the medical hall, he found that the faces of the patients who had not yet left were full of relief. They had complete trust in the doctors of the small Ciantong. When Daiguoshu had experienced the vicissitudes of life, whether it was fame or fortune, he had seen through it all. He did not expect that after 50 years of stability in the Medicine Emperor Pavilion of the Jade Capital, the position of the Medicine Emperor Pavilion would be shaken by a small medical hall in just a few months. No, to be exact, it was shaken by the little girl in front of him who was a dual cultivator of ancient medicine and magical herbs. His two beloved disciples Yao Rong and Fan Zhi betrayed him. His disciple Cheng Sihai also died. Most importantly, this time around, the Medicine Emperor Pavilion's foundation had been damaged to the core, to the very foundation of the Medicine Emperor Pavilion. The losses of the various pharmacies were more serious than he had imagined. More than 90% of the precious herbs were destroyed, and more than 80% of the sacred herbs were out of stock. This time, the Medicine Emperor Pavilion lost more than half a year's supply of herbs. Chapter 386. You are Yunsheng, right? This is the first time we have met. When Daguai ignored Yao Rong and walked to the front of Yunsheng. Seeing her master's indifference, Yao Rong couldn't help but feel sad. Seeing this, Fan Zhi patted his beloved wife's shoulder and the two looked at each other without saying a word. This was also the first time Yunsheng met the #1 doctor in Jade Capital, the #1 doctor in Zhou State, Wen Daguai. He had a childish face and white hair. Looking at his appearance, one couldn't tell that he was an old man who was close to 90 years old. It was rumored that his acupuncture technique was the best in Zhou State. Facing this old senior in the medical world, Yunsheng was still polite. She bowed and said respectfully, "This one is Yunsheng Wen Daguai. What advice do you have for me today?" It can't be said to be advice. You can even cure Yun Songlong's hand disease. Your medical skills can be said to be the best in the world. I am here to negotiate with you. Medicine Emperor Pavilion and Little Ciantong have been fighting for half a year. Both sides didn't get any benefits. I hope that from now on, we will each do our own thing and not interfere with each other. You can continue with your medical center and Medicine Emperor Pavilion will resume your normal supply of medicinal herbs. When Daguai's words carried the arrogance of a doctor. It was obvious that Medicine Emperor Pavilion was in a disadvantageous position, but his words made it seem like Little Ciantong was overestimating itself. Yunsheng smiled coldly, the Grand National Master's words are wrong. When did our Little Ciantong compete with Medicine Emperor Pavilion? It was you who blocked our supply of medicinal herbs. If not for the fact that the medical center can still operate some magic herbs, I am afraid that Jade Capital would no longer have Little Ciantong. Impudent. If not for the fact that you are old General Yun's granddaughter, do you think you can still stay in Jade Capital? When Daguai's veins faintly moved on his forehead. How many years had it been since someone dared to talk to him like this? Even the current emperor of Zhou State didn't dare to talk to him like this. After all, people would get sick. If they were terminally ill, Wen Daguai had the medical skills to bring them back to life. The reason why I was able to establish myself in Jade Capital was never because my surname was Yun. If possible, I don't want to have anything to do with this family name for the rest of my life. Yun Sheng's little face was full of arrogance. What an arrogant little girl. Wen Daguai was so angry that he almost vomited blood. But she had the right to be arrogant. She, Yun Sheng from the Imperial Magic Academy, became famous with a single medicine, to the bloody lowly to the Wei Wei City, and then to the Wushuan Everlasting Hall's Medicine Hall elder. When had she ever borrowed the power of the Yun residence? The residence of Yun was already nearing its end, but she was the rising sun. Her future was limitless. Even when de Guosho was at a loss for words after being questioned. Yun Sheng, don't refuse a toast only to be forced to drink a forfeit. Grand Minister Wen has already given you enough face by personally coming to negotiate. Do you really think that you alone can protect everyone around you? Qi Fangfei's gaze was like a knife as she glared fiercely at Xiao Yun, who was standing beside Yun Sheng. She was threatening Yun Sheng. Perhaps there was no place for her to lay her hands on Yun Sheng, but those villagers and everything related to little Ci Antong could be destroyed by any means. Then do you think that with just you and the power behind you, you would be able to protect the hundreds of medicinal villas of the Medicine Sovereign Pavilion at all times? Yun Sheng didn't have the slightest awareness that she was being threatened. Her lips curled into a shameless smile. The medicine halls of the Medicine Emperor Pavilion? Only then did the people in the medical hall come to a realization. It turned out that Yun Sheng's so-called tampering was referring to the medicinal manor. A snake hits its weak spot. To the gigantic Medicine Emperor Pavilion, their weak spot was none other than the numerous medicinal villas scattered all over the continent. However, what everyone didn't understand was that Yun Sheng hadn't even left Jade Capital for the past few months, so how did she destroy the medicine halls of the Medicine Emperor Pavilion? Looking at the constipated faces of Wen Daoshou and Qi Fangfei, it wasn't hard to see that Yun Sheng must have made them suffer heavy losses this time. Wen Daoshou and Qi Fangfei also understood why the hundreds of medicine halls on the continent weren't completely destroyed this time, but only a few dozen. Yun Sheng's meaning was that it wasn't that she couldn't destroy them, but because Yun Sheng had long predicted that this negotiation would definitely happen. She had prepared enough chips for this negotiation long ago. Everything was under her control. She was really just an 8 or 9-year-old child. Her calmness and thoughtfulness were enough to make an old ginger like Wen Daoshou blush with shame. What a vicious little bitch. Qi Fangfei had a sense of powerlessness. She could also be considered a vicious person, but when facing Yun Sheng, she had a heartfelt sense of powerlessness. Thank you for the compliment, but I can't be compared to Medicine Man Qi. Both a vicious person and a vicious heart. Yun Sheng lifted her eyelids. Wen Daoshou finally compromised. For the Medicine Emperor Pavilion, the supply of medicinal herbs couldn't be cut off. Otherwise, with so many medicinal herbs supplied by the Medicine Emperor Pavilion on the continent, it was enough to make the Medicine Emperor Pavilion collapse in a few months. Yun Sheng's threat was very simple, but it was the most powerful. Because of this negotiation, the little Ci Antong and the Medicine Emperor Pavilion temporarily stopped fighting. Yun Sheng withdrew the beast ants from the Medicine Hall, and the Medicine Emperor Pavilion also restored the normal supply of medicinal herbs to the little Ci Antong. When Wen Daoshou left, he passed by Dr. Fan and Yao Rong and only said one sentence, "You're on your own." After today's parting, the friendship between the three of them was over. Yun Sheng and the Medicine Emperor Pavilion understood that the little Ci Antong and the Medicine Emperor Pavilion hadn't completely reconciled. They were just giving each other a chance to breathe. For Yun Sheng, the current strength of the little Ci Antong wasn't strong enough to compete with the Medicine Emperor Pavilion. For the Medicine Emperor Pavilion, they had spent too much effort on the little Ci Antong. In this period of time, they needed to find an opportunity to completely deal with the little Ci Antong. When he passed by GMO, Wen Daoshou's hand suddenly stopped. He said with unclear meaning, "The lesson of the past is the teacher of the future. It's not only the Medicine Emperor Pavilion that will be affected." After that, he took another look at GMO. Yao Rong was very sad, but Dr. Fan comforted her from the side. People who walk different paths can't make plans together. The current Medicine Emperor Pavilion is different from the Medicine Emperor Pavilion of our childhood. Since the two of them left the Medicine Emperor Pavilion, they had decided to wholeheartedly serve the little Ci Antong. Yun Sheng showed her wit and courage in this confrontation, which made Dr. Fan and Yao Rong admire her very much. That's amazing. Lin Yao didn't wake up until Wen Daogua's hand left. She didn't see wrong, right? Divine Dr. Yun drove away Wen Daoshou's hand. They won against the Medicine Emperor Pavilion. Don't relax. Tomorrow we will start to rectify the matter of the Magic Medicine Hall. Yun Sheng also breathed a sigh of relief. This battle was also thrilling for her. She just didn't know what kind of crisis was waiting for her. GMO, I want to talk to you. Yun Sheng felt that it was time to lay her cards on the table with GMO. Chapter 387. Seeing Yun Sheng suddenly call out to GMO, The few people in the clinic were stunned. They looked at the two of them in confusion. Yun Sheng's expression was calm as if she was chatting with someone. Should I call you GMO or Xia Ximing? A slight ripple appeared on GMO's ordinary face. He opened his mouth with some difficulty. When did you find out? GMO was actually the young magistrate of the temple, Xia Wenshu, who was as handsome as an immortal. The temple Xia Wenshu. Even the chief personage had heard of his name. Xia Wenshu, the peerless prodigy of the temple of Wuji's 5 annulus, was completely familiar with this ordinary-looking, taciturn young man. Dr. Fan and Yao Rong finally understood why Xia Wenshu's light magic was like this. It was rumored that Xia Wenshu of the temple had already become a sky magus 3 years ago. His light magic could bring the dead back to life. Compared to the various expressions of the crowd, Yun Sheng was very calm. It's been a while. I've always guessed that you were from the temple, but I didn't expect that someone as noble as Xia Ximing would lower himself to come to our clinic to do odd jobs. Yun Sheng's tone was a little regretful. GMO was a very good talent. Is it because of my words or my magic? Xia Wenshu didn't understand what went wrong with his disguise. Since his identity had been exposed, Xia Wenshu simply removed the magic on his body. The magic he used was similar to the disguise magic, but the magic attribute was different. He used a type of illusion magic. Once the magic was removed, Xia Wenshu's unforgettable face appeared in front of everyone. He had sharp eyebrows and bright eyes, and his body emitted a gentle aura like the radiance of the sun and moon. He looked like an immortal. Your words and actions are impeccable, and your magic is also perfect. But it's because it's too perfect that it attracts attention. Yun Sheng hadn't seen through Xia Wenshu's identity until a few months had passed. His impeccable words and actions, like the most outstanding model student, made Yun Sheng suspicious. What made Yun Sheng completely confirm Xia Wenshu's identity was Xiao Yun's wound. Previously, she also thought that Xiao Yun's wound was healed by Dr. Fan, but when she examined Xiao Yun, she discovered traces of light magic elements in her body. Due to the darkness magic soul in her body, Yun Sheng's sensitivity towards light magic was very high. Moreover, that wisp of light magic was very pure. In Yun Sheng's impression, she had only seen such pure light magic from one person, and that was Xia Wenshu. I didn't think that striving for perfection would become my biggest flaw. Xia Wenshu realized that in front of Yun Sheng, all of his pretenses were so fragile. He had neglected the fact that this girl, who had a pair of bright eyes when they first met, was now revealing a radiance that made him involuntarily glance sideways. Now that his identity has been recognized, Xia Wenshu can no longer stay in the little Xiantong. Moreover, when De Guoshuo was more or less aware of his identity, it could be assumed that during this period of time, something was wrong with him in little Xiantong, and the keen elder Si Ming had already noticed it. During this period of time, for some unknown reason, Xia Wenshu sent less and less information back to the temple. For example, Xia Wenshu understood that he must bring the information back to the temple, but he didn't do so. It was as if he shouldn't have saved Xiao Yun, but Xia Wenshu did. In the eyes of others, this might be due to the benevolence of the young master of the temple, but only Xia Wenshu himself knew that he wasn't that benevolent. The reason why he did this was all because of Yun Sheng. He was partial to her, and habitually secretly watched her in the medical hall. He didn't like to see her frown, and he liked to see her drinking sour plum soup while smiling foolishly. He was worried that one day he would fight with Yun Sheng because of the matter in the temple. With my identity, it's no longer suitable for me to stay in the little Xiantong. Thank you all for taking care of me these days. After Xia Wenshu restored his original appearance, his speech and words have all changed back to the humble and courteous Si Ming. No one could find any fault in his words and actions. Xia Ximing, you are too polite. You have helped us a lot recently. This bottle of praise of the moon god is your salary. Before he left, Yun Sheng gave him a bottle of praise of the moon god. Seeing the bottle of potion that looked like a flaming sunrise, Xia Wenshu was stunned. She realized the purpose of his visit. Without the embarrassment of being seen through, Xia Wenshu calmly accepted Yun Sheng's gift. He took the potion and returned to Jade Capital Temple. The two brothers, Yuji and Mo, had been waiting for a long time. Compared to 2 years ago, the two of them had grown a little, but they still looked like children. Si Ming, you are finally back. Where have you been all this time? If you didn't send us a message every few days, we would have thought that you had gone missing. Xia Wenshu didn't explain. He was a man of few words, and the words he said in the past few months in Little Xiantong was much more than what he had said in the past 10 years. While you weren't here, Elder Si Ming sent a letter over. Yu Ji and Yu Mo naturally didn't dare to check Elder Si Ming's letter without permission. The two of them were worried that something had happened, so they had been waiting for Xiao Wenshu to return. Xiao Wenshu opened the letter, and his master's vigorous words appeared vividly on the paper. The matter started a few days ago. At that time, the battle between Yun Sheng and the Medicine Emperor Pavilion hadn't officially started yet. A few days ago, Elder Si Ming was praying at the altar of the temple. That was Elder Si Ming's daily homework. Very few people knew, or rather only 2 people in this world knew, that in a certain room deep in the temple, there was a divine tool that shocked the entire continent, the Heavenly Fate Mirror of the 8 Baron Divine Tools. No one knew when the Heavenly Fate Mirror fell into the hands of the temple. Very few people knew about the uniqueness of the Heavenly Fate Mirror, because in the temple, only Elder Si Ming and Young Si Ming knew about the use of the Heavenly Fate Mirror. From the outside, the Heaven's Mandate Mirror looked no different from an ordinary mirror. It was just that the surface of the mirror wasn't the usual brass color of the boundless continent. Regardless of whether it was day or night, the surface of the Heavenly Fate Mirror was hazy, and it shone like mother-of-pearl starlight. This seemingly ordinary mirror reflected the general situation of the world. If there was no war in the world, the mirror would reflect a gentle starlight, but if there was war, the mirror would reflect a bloody light. In the past few decades, most of the time, the mirror would reflect a gentle starlight. On this day, Elder Si Ming finished her morning prayer class as usual. Just as she was about to turn and leave, a light suddenly flashed on her mirror. The entire mirror turned into a bloody light. When Elder Si Ming saw this, she immediately walked in front of the Heavenly Fate Mirror. A figure appeared on the mirror. Thank you Ruo Meng and Minion for your tips. Chapter 388. Those who could appear in the Heavenly Mandate Mirror were naturally not ordinary people. They were definitely people who could change the world. When Elder Si Ming saw the scene in the mirror, his expression changed slightly. The martial star of Zhou State, the cornerstone of Zhou State, the martial Saint General Yun Ba, had a bloody calamity. If he fell, if he died, then the fate of Zhou State. He immediately calculated Yun Ba's fate, but came up with a death divination. What made him even more surprised was that this death divination was extremely dangerous, and it was because of the people around it. Elder Si Ming immediately wrote a letter to Xiao Wenshu. When Xiao Wenshu opened the letter, he read, "The martial saint of Zhou State will fall. Fate cannot be defied. Pay close attention to the trend of Zhou State." Xiao Wenshu slowly closed the letter. He stood in the middle of the courtyard in silence, his hands clasped behind his back as he pondered. Yu Ji and Yu Mo had followed Xiao Wenshu for many years. They knew his habits. Seeing him like this, he must have encountered something that was bothering him. The two of them wisely retreated. The sky gradually darkened. The entire courtyard was silent. Xiao Wenshu frowned and looked up at the starry sky. A sea of stars was reflected in his eyes. Very few people knew that one could see the fate of the continent just by looking at the sky. In a corner of the starry sky, a star was gradually dimming. That star was located in the northeast direction of the starry sky. Its corresponding position was Zhou State. Xiao Wenshu was silent. He couldn't help but think of Yun Sheng's face. His heart suddenly tightened. Fate cannot be defied. Yun Ba's death was fate. Just as Xiao Wenshu was about to return to his room and write a letter to Elder Si Ming, his pupils suddenly shrank. In the sky, a meteor with a long tail streaked across. The sky was instantly illuminated. This is... Xiao Wenshu couldn't help but tighten his grip on the letter in his hand. As the meteor streaked across the sky, the originally dim starlight seemed to brighten a little. Was it a coincidence or was there a variable? Xiao Wenshu dismissed the idea of writing a letter. He decided to find a suitable opportunity to visit the general's residence in the next few days. He soon found a suitable opportunity because Yun Ba's birthday celebration was coming up. The Medicine Emperor Pavilion also kept their promises. A few days after when Dagwa took over, they lifted the blockade on the supply of medicinal herbs to the Little Ci Entong. Yun Sheng also temporarily withdrew the attack of the beast ants. Her magic pharmacy continued to operate in an orderly manner. The only regret was that there were still no clues about Xian Yu's death and the red-robed man's investigation. On this day, Yun Sheng was busy in the medical center when a person came to her unexpectedly. "Uncle Yun?" Yun Sheng didn't expect that the person looking for her would be Uncle Yun. She had met Uncle Yun a few times and knew that he was an old servant of the Yun residence. He was also old General Yun's page boy and had watched the 3 Yun siblings grow up together. He was a very amiable old man, But Yun Xing heard from Yun Songlong that Uncle Yun shouldn't be underestimated. He was also a martial artist and his cultivation was also a martial marquis. Most of the guards in the Yun residence weren't his opponent. It was said that his skills were trained by accompanying Yun Ba in the past. Young Miss, Uncle Yun had been waiting for a while. He saw that Yun Xing was busy and didn't have the nerve to disturb her. Only when Yun Xing noticed him did he step forward to greet her. Uncle Yun, you shouldn't call me young miss. Yun Xing didn't like being called young miss and young master. Moreover, she didn't want to be associated with people like Tang Yu. Young miss, don't be angry with master. He has always been worried about you. Uncle Yun felt sad when he heard this. After Tang Yu was exiled, although the Yun residence was a lot quieter, it was also a lot more deserted. Yun Songlong was also busy with the matters of the hunting corps and rarely came to the residence. In order to make the residence livelier, the third miss made arrangements to celebrate Yun Ba's birthday. Yun Ba was already 60 years old this year. He didn't comment on the birthday banquet, but in private he was still happy. He even asked Uncle Yun a few times about the matter of little Xiantong. Not many people in the Jade capital knew about the battle between Medicine Emperor Pavilion and little Xiantong, but Yun Ba more or less knew about it. Although he said that Yun Xing was arrogant and ignorant, he was secretly very pleased. That was his granddaughter, a member of the Yun residence. If he wanted to do something he would do it to the top. This time he made Wendagwa suffer a loss. Yun Ba was very proud. Uncle Yun was well aware of his master's temper. He had snuck over behind Yun Ba's back and handed a birthday invitation to Yun Xing. Young miss, it'll be old General's 60th birthday in a few days. After saying that, Uncle Yun looked at Yun Xing with an expectant face. How could Yun Xing not understand his meaning? Towards the Yun residence, Yun Xing's attitude had always been very clear. She wasn't a member of the Yun residence. As long as old General Yun didn't acknowledge her identity as his mother, she wouldn't call him grandfather and didn't plan to go to the Yun residence. I will prepare a birthday gift, Yun Xing said vaguely. She didn't say whether she would personally go or not and prepared to send Uncle Yun away. Young miss, actually the matter of that year, it wasn't entirely old General's fault. Uncle Yun still wanted to explain. Coincidentally, a patient came to the door. Yun Xing used the excuse of seeing a patient and sent Uncle Yun away. Uncle Yun could only walk out of the medical hall. When he left, he turned back to look at Yun Xing and saw Yun Xing asking about the patient's condition. Yun Xing was almost 9 years old now. Her features were beautiful, especially her eyes, which were especially eye-catching. As Uncle Yun watched from the side, he secretly thought to himself, young miss and her mother really do resemble each other. Even the way they speak is 70 to 80% similar. It's a pity that eldest young madam's identity. Uncle Yun returned to the general's residence in deep thought. Once he returned, he heard from the servants that Yun Ba had been looking for him all over the residence, saying that he was looking for someone to spar with. Uncle Yun couldn't help but frown. Old master was looking for someone to spar with again. In the entire Yun residence, there weren't many people who could barely exchange a few blows with Yun Ba. Uncle Yun had been Yun Ba's partner in both martial arts and studies in the early years, so he had always been Yun Ba's first choice to spar with him. But recently, Uncle Yun wasn't very willing to spar with Yun Ba. There was no other reason other than that Uncle Yun felt that old master's skills seemed to have deteriorated. Especially last time after young miss had treated his illness, he would nag from time to time, asking if he was getting old. The word old was still a taboo to Yun Ba. But these days, even though he had abstained from alcohol and drank third Mrs. nourishing soup every day, old master's health seemed to be deteriorating. Uncle Yun naturally wouldn't tell Yun Ba about this matter. He knew that old master was only talking about it, but if someone really said that he was getting old, he would probably fly into a rage. Yun Song, you rascal, where did you run off to? I was just looking for someone to spar with. Yun Ba's voice boomed like a large bell as he strode over. Chapter 389. Old Master. Uncle Yun's face was bitter as he thought about how to avoid this competition. This old servant doesn't have the time to spar with you. Look, your birthday is coming soon. As the steward of the Yun residence, I have a lot of work to do. Both inside and outside the residence are waiting for me to take care of things. I also have to send out the birthday invitations one by one. Uncle Yun took out a list of names from his robes. There was a long list of names written on it. Even the Emperor of Zhou State was an honored guest on the list. There were also guests from other states in the Jade capital, such as Xia Si Ming from the Dharma Temple, who were also invited to the birthday banquet. Yun Ba was obviously not interested in this list. He was a martial artist and had always been troubled by these kinds of complicated formalities. Therefore he had given full authority to Yun Sangxue and Uncle Yun. But today Yun Ba was different from his usual self and carefully looked at the list. No matter how he looked at it, he felt that there was a name missing. Yun Song, are all the invited guests on this list? Yun Ba muttered in his heart. Why wasn't that little girl's name on the list? It turned out that Yun Ba had other plans in mind when he was willing to hold the birthday banquet this time. According to Zhou State's etiquette, the elder's birthday banquet required the grandchildren to kowtow and cook. In his heart, he was still hoping that little girl Yun Sheng would come to congratulate him at this birthday banquet. Then he would naturally make her kowtow a few times and acknowledge her ancestors. After all, he only had Yun Sheng and Tang Yu as his children. Tang Yu was a disappointment and was exiled. Naturally, he wouldn't come back to kowtow to him. Therefore, only Yun Sheng was left. Uncle Yun saw that his old master was reluctant to ask and muttered in his heart, "Old master, you have a good plan, but the problem is that the little miss won't admit it." Yun Ba finally couldn't hold it in any longer. "I say, Yun Song, are some people missing from the list? I think something's wrong." "Master, I know what you mean. People like the second young master and the little miss are family, so they are naturally not on the list. I have personally sent the invitations to both of them. As for the second young master, he had been out on a mission for the past few days. He would be back in about 2 or 3 days. As for little miss, what did she say?" Yun Ba asked. "She didn't say much." Uncle Yun shrugged. "How can I not say anything? I'm her grandfather, and the blood of the Yun family flows in her veins. Does she want to deny it?" Yun Ba's hair stood on end as he stomped his feet in the courtyard. His nostrils flared as he huffed and puffed. If Yun Xing didn't come, she would be disloyal and unfilial. She would be committing a heinous crime. There's no need to persuade her. "If she doesn't come, I won't be able to celebrate my birthday," Yun Ba said stubbornly. "Master, this old servant will go back to work on the birthday banquet." Uncle Yun wiped the sweat from his forehead. His master was really getting worse and worse. His temper was like that of a child's. Yun Ba wanted to say something, but a guard came in and reported, "Master, Xia Siming of the Dharma Temple wishes to see you." When Yun Ba heard this, his expression softened. Uncle Yun heaved a sigh of relief and took the opportunity to slip away. Yun Ba straightened his clothes and went out to welcome the guest. Xia Wenshu had come to Zhou State this time and saved the crown prince's life. The imperial family of Zhou State was very courteous to him. In addition, he was young, so his reputation as a genius had spread throughout the mainland for many years. Even someone like Yun Ba, who didn't like to interact with sorcerers, couldn't help but treat him with respect. "Xia Siming, an honored guest, has come to visit. Please forgive this old man for not going out to welcome you." As soon as Yun Ba stepped out, he saw Xia Wenshu waiting at the door, accompanied by 2 children. Although he had heard of Xia Wenshu's name long ago, this was the first time he had seen him in person. It was rumored that Xia Wenshu was like an orchid and had an unparalleled bearing. Now that he saw him today, he had a tall and straight posture and wore a sorcerer's robe. His silver hair was like snow, and it reflected his handsome face. Even a boorish person like Yun Ba couldn't help but praise him in his heart. This person was really favored by the heavens. "Old General, I trust you have been well since we last met. When Wenshu came to Zhou State this time, I should have paid you a visit long ago. However, because of some trivial matters I didn't come. Please forgive me, Old General." Xia Wenshu was also secretly sizing up Zhou State's #1 fierce general, the old Martial Saint General. After welcoming Xia Wenshu into the residence, Yun Ba chatted with him as they walked. The two of them were quite congenial. This was Xia Wenshu's first time coming to the general's residence. He had come today to reply to Yun Ba about the birthday banquet, but in his heart he wanted to see the reason behind Yun Ba's bloody disaster this time. Logically speaking, Yun Ba was only 60 years old this year. To the cultivators of the boundless continent, 60 years old wasn't the age of destiny. Instead, it was the time when one's martial strength and battle chi reached their peak. Xia Wenshu was good at reading people's faces. As soon as Yun Ba stepped forward, he observed the other party's complexion, steps, and aura. With a single glance, Xia Wenshu discovered something unusual. From the outside, Yun Ba's body looked very healthy. He walked like a dragon or a tiger, and his voice was loud and powerful. It didn't seem like he was sick at all. However, upon closer inspection, he felt that something wasn't right. This feeling made Xia Wenshu feel very strange. Since it wasn't an illness, nor was it poison, then what was the cause of Yun Ba's bloody calamity this time? Yun Ba didn't know what Xiao Wenshu was thinking. He brought him all the way to the main hall. As soon as he sat down, he had a servant serve tea. The two of them chatted for a while. At this time Yun Sangshue walked in with a servant. The servant was holding a bowl of soup in her hands. The soup had clearly been cooked not long ago. It was still steaming hot. "Father, it's time for you to drink the soup." Yun Sangshue saw Xiao Wenshu as soon as she entered. Xiao Wenshu's face was too outstanding. Even the married Yun Sangshue couldn't help but take a few more looks. "Shue, I'll drink the soup later. There are guests here. Let me introduce them to you. This is Xia Siming, the genius Siming of the Fa Miao Temple. You should have heard of his name before." Yun Ba chuckled as he introduced Yun Sangshue and Xiao Wenshu. Xiao Wenshu was the #1 genius of the Fa Miao Temple. At the same time, he was the most outstanding potion master in the field of potions in the Fa Miao Temple. Yun Sangshue's expression tensed. She subconsciously looked at the bowl of soup in the servant's hands. Yun Ba didn't care about her unnatural expression. However, Xiao Wenshu caught Yun Sangshue's strange expression. He discreetly glanced at the bowl of soup that the servant had brought over. The servant's expression was calm and didn't reveal anything out of the ordinary. However, Yun Sangshue's smile was very forced. "Xia Siming is too polite. Father, Xia Siming isn't an outsider. You should drink the soup while it's hot. I spent many days preparing these ingredients." Yun Sangshue nervously clenched her fists. When the people of the Bloody Hand Tycoon gave her the bottle of medicine, they had already said that this was a very new type of medicine. Even if a great national expert personally came, they wouldn't be able to see any problems with it. Moreover, this medicine wasn't a magic potion. She wasn't afraid that Xiao Wenshu would recognize it. However, Yun Sangshue was still a little nervous. In order to avoid any unexpected problems, she urged Yun Ba to drink the soup quickly. This child. Yun Ba only saw Yun Sangshue's abnormality as concern. He didn't refuse and picked up the bowl of soup, finishing it in a few gulps. Chapter 390. Yun Sangshue heaved a sigh of relief. Xiao Wenshu, on the other hand, felt that something was amiss. "Father, you two chat first. Shue, will go down to attend to the birthday banquet." Yun Sangshue bowed to Xiao Wenshu and left with the servant girl. Xiao Wenshu looked at Yun Sangshue's back and didn't miss the guilty look in her eyes when she left. "Old General, are you well?" Xiao Wenshu retracted his gaze and asked casually. "I'm healthy. It's a pity that Xia Siming is proficient in magic. Otherwise we could have a good fight." Yun Ba laughed. Xiao Wenshu chatted for a while more before leaving the Yun residence with Yu Ji and Umo. After leaving the Yun residence, Xiao Wenshu fell silent. "Young Siming, are we going back directly?" Yu Ji and Umo jumped into the carriage. "Let's go back." Xiao Wenshu's mind was still recalling Yun Sangshue's actions. After traveling for a short distance, Xiao Wenshu suddenly called for the carriage to stop. "We're not in a hurry to go back. Let's go to the little Ci Entong." Yu Ji and Umo could see that Siming was acting strangely today. They didn't ask too much and stopped the carriage at the entrance of the little Ci Entong. But when he entered the medical hall, he didn't see Yun Sheng. "You're Xia Siming?" Lin Yao saw that there were a few unfamiliar guests in the medical hall. Then she looked at the person in the lead. He had an outstanding face. "You should call me GMO, Xiao Wenshu nodded. "GMO?" Yu Ji and Umo were both surprised. After all, Xia Siming hadn't mentioned the surname Ji for many years. That was his mother's surname. Ever since he was sent to the temple when he was young, Xia Siming had never told anyone about his background. Yu Ji and Umo only found out by chance that GMO was Xia Siming's real name. But why would Xia Siming tell such a secret about himself to the people of this inconspicuous medical hall? "You're here to look for godly Dr. Yun, right? She's not here, so she should be at the Wushuan Limitless Hall." Lin Yao was obviously not used to Ji Mo's original appearance. She even preferred Ji Mo's ordinary face from before. "Not here." Xiao Wenshu's eyes darkened and there was a clear look of disappointment on his face. Yu Ji and Umo were even more shocked. "That can't be right? That's Lord Arbiter of Fate?" When Lin Yao saw the disappointment on the handsome man's face, she immediately felt guilty. Just as she was about to say something, a voice came from behind her. "Miss Yao, can I trouble you to get me some hemostatic agent?" Yi Baiming stood at the entrance of the clinic. He also came to find Yun Sheng, but unfortunately he ran into Xiao Wenshu. "Prince, if you want to use medicine, why don't you just take it from divine Dr. Yun?" Lin Yao looked between Yi Baiming and Xiao Wenshu. She had a feeling of being overwhelmed and unable to bear the sight of it. In one day she saw two peerlessly handsome men, each with their own merits, and both of them were here to look for miracle Dr. Yun. Haha, you also know that the price that little wild kittens are sold to me is always very fair. Yi Baiming smiled slightly, and there was a hint of mockery in his phoenix eyes. Why was Xiao Wenshu here? Was he also here to look for little wild cat? Xiao Wenshu also had a lot of questions in his heart. Why did the dignified Dark North King need to come personally to buy medicine? The two men with the same appearance and strength looked at each other. There was a flash of lightning in their eyes. The two brothers, Yu Ji and Yu Mo, also smelled a very unusual scent from their arbiter of fate. This feeling seemed to be hostility. Xia Ximing had hostility towards others? To be precise, the Xia Ximing they knew disdained to have too many emotions towards others. Prince, your medicine. Lin Yaoer saw the 2-1-8 tall men standing at the entrance of the medical center, one not leaving, the other not leaving. She was anxious in her heart. Yi Baiming calmly took the medicine and did not move at all. Lin Yaoer could only helplessly ask Xiao Wenshu, Xia Ximing, if you have something urgent, I can help you pass a message. It's fine. I'll wait for her to come back, Xiao Wenshu said indifferently. Miracle Dr. Yun might not come back for the next few days. Lin Yaoer could not tell him that Yun Sheng had hidden in Wushuan Wuji Martial Hall to avoid meeting Uncle Yun again. Xia Ximing, if you don't mind, I can help you pass a message. Little Wild Cat and I will be staying in the Martial Hall together. You also know that with your status, it's not convenient for you to enter the Martial Hall. Yi Baiming emphasized the word, together. Xiao Wenshu raised his eyebrows slightly, a trace of anger flashing in his good-looking eyes. He wanted to leave in a huff, but when he thought of Yun Ba, he could not help but be patient. If Yun Xing did not return to the medical center for a few days, he would not be able to meet her for a while. If his guess was correct, something would happen at Yun Ba's birthday banquet in a few days. Tell her that if possible, she must attend old General Yun's birthday banquet this time. Xiao Wenshu only suspected that Yun Ba's bloody disaster this time might be related to Yun Sangshue. However, he was unable to reveal the secrets of heaven. Right now, the only thing he could do was to give Yun Xing some hints, hoping that she would go to the residence of Yun as soon as possible. Perhaps, with her medical skills, she would be able to discover something amiss. Yi Baiming also knew about Yun Ba's birthday banquet. However, based on his understanding of Little Wild Cat, that fellow's personality was stubborn. She was exactly the same as Yun Ba. She would definitely not personally attend the birthday banquet. I will pass the message, but whether Little Wild Cat goes or not is her business. Actually, Yi Baiming wanted to say that if Xiao Wenshu also wanted to go, he would definitely not let Little Wild Cat go. Then I will have to trouble Lord Baiming. Xiao Wenshu nodded and turned to leave. Wait a minute, Xia Ximing. I heard that the Ximing of the Dharma Temple has always been emotionless. Why do you care about the Yun residence? Yi Baiming asked from behind. Xiao Wenshu did not say a word and directly left. Yi Baiming stayed in the medical center for a while before returning to Wushuan Wuji building. Yun Xing was in the medical center. She and Little Wild Bird were sitting on the ground. In front of them were 7 or 8 musical instruments. At the same time, there were 7 or 8 musicians in the medical center. Master, are you sure you want to learn these musical instruments? Early in the morning, Xiao Qin had just finished participating in the outer pavilion's trial when Yun Xing mysteriously dragged him over. After asking, she found out that Yun Xing said she wanted to learn musical instruments. To be exact, she wanted to learn the first 3 movements of the Song of Confucius after learning the musical instruments. Yes, I want to learn the 4 arts. I can't know all of them, but at least I need to know how to play a musical instrument. Only then can I show that your master is well educated and knowledgeable, Yun Xing said with certainty. Little Wild Bird was speechless. She had never seen a young lady as well educated and knowledgeable as her master. She would definitely not tell Little Wild Bird that the reason she wanted to learn musical instruments was because she had seen the effects of Yuan Bupo's Di Hong song. Chapter 391. Earlier on, Yun Xing had only heard the Di Hong song played by Oriole and thought that it was just SOSO. However, when she was taming the Hellfire, Yuan Bupo played the last few chapters of the Di Hong song, which opened Yun Xing's eyes. At the moment when the Di Hong song was played, she could feel that Yuan Bupo's cultivation had increased tremendously. He was only a few steps away from taming the Hellfire. If Yun Xing did not have the Shinong medical bangle and the 5 elemental Dharma spirit, she would not be able to compare to Yuan Bupo. Although Yun Sheng's current abilities were not bad, she was far from the top. Even if she was a summoner, it was because of the summoning demon hand. However, Yun Sheng did not want to rely on the summoning demon hand too much. After all, it was a magical weapon. If she was not careful, she would be discovered. A man's wealth was his own ruin. With Yun Sheng's current abilities, she could not protect the magical weapon. In a short period of time, the Dihong song was the only safe way to increase her cultivation. Oriole used a pipa. It was said that Yun Songlong's sweetheart Yuan Xiaohua used a guzheng. Yuan Bupo himself used a piccolo. This meant that any musical instrument could play the Dihong song. Yun Xing knew nothing about musical instruments. Out of desperation, she thought of choosing the same musical instrument among all the other musical instruments. Therefore, after thinking for a while, Yun Xing decided that she wanted to learn musical instruments. There were all kinds of musical instruments in the Wuji continent. For example, the guzheng, the pipa, the eru, the bell, the shao, the sheng, the guzheng, the flute, and so on. Looking at the style, there were all kinds of musical instruments. Yun Xing invited a few musicians. Each of them performed in front of her once. Then, she planned to choose the most suitable musical instrument. All of you play at once. I'll memorize the playing method. Yun Xing was quite confident in learning musical instruments. She had a good memory. She thought that as long as she memorized the fingering method of each musician, it would be fine. But this time Yun Xing was gravely mistaken. When Yi Baiming arrived, Yun Xing was halfway through her work. A sharp, ear-piercing, terrifying demonic sound, like morning music, reverberated endlessly in the medicine hall. It turned out that Yun Xing was playing the arrow. Don't be afraid of a fool singing, but be afraid of a musical idiot playing music. The musicians all had bitter looks on their faces, as if they had swallowed 10 flies. They were all famous musicians in the Jade capital. When they saw that the musical instruments they were good at had all become weapons of murder in Yun Sheng's hands, all of them felt miserable beyond words. Ah, that's strange. The tone is not right. Yun Sheng clearly remembered that she had memorized their fingering technique very well, but when she played, the sound changed. The songs she used for practice were naturally not Dihong song. They were all famous songs from Zhou State. Master, I don't think you're suitable to learn music. Why don't you give up? She was about to cry when she heard the words. It is indeed terrible. Yi Baiming also felt that his ears were buzzing. Musical instruments are not played like this. Yi Baiming casually picked up a guqin. It was a guqin made of willow wood. He tuned the strings and plucked the strings. His eyebrows were lowered, and his eyelashes fluttered like a butterfly flapping its wings. His long fingers with distinct joints plucked the strings. An ancient song, Seeking a Phoenix, lingered endlessly in the medicine hall. The mellow male voice and the beautiful sound of the guqin complemented each other seamlessly. The musicians could not help but clap along with the beautiful sound of the guqin. Also closed her eyes to listen. After the song, Yun Xing jumped up and patted her chest. I've decided. I want to learn the guqin. Yun Xing did not have a sense of music. There was no other reason why she patted her chest and wanted to learn the guqin. The scene of the handsome man playing the guqin and the smoke from the incense burner at the side was a classic example of pretentiousness. If she, Yun Xing, could play such a song one day, just thinking about the scene made her blood boil. However, Yun Xing was also very strange. How could Yi Baiming know how to play the guqin? She had never seen him play the guqin when they were in Jiaoye village. Besides, he was blind when he was young. How did he learn to play the guqin? Instead, it was the Oriole beside her who answered her doubts. Lord Baiming's guqin skills are indeed outstanding. It is rumored that Lord Baiming learned to play the blind guqin at the age of 3. At the age of 6, his guqin skills were the best in the harem. Now that I've seen him today, he really lives up to his reputation. Yi Baiming stroked the strings of the guqin with some emotion. When he was playing the guqin just now, he had also recalled some old memories. He started learning the blind guqin at the age of 3. The reason for learning the guqin was very simple. It was because his mother, Empress Li, was an expert in the guqin. Empress' mother would often burn incense and bathe at night, play the guqin, and wait for the arrival of the Emperor of Zhou State. However, there were almost 20 days in a month when the Emperor of Zhou State would not come. Although Yi Baiming was young, he could feel that his mother would be unhappy whenever Imperial Father did not come. In order to make his mother happier, he pestered her to learn the guqin. Empress Li was also a smart person. In order to make it easier for Yi Baiming to practice the guqin, she had once created a very special blind guqin. Yi Baiming did not need to use his eyes. He could rely on the touch of his fingers to play beautiful music. After learning it for a year, Yi Baiming was able to play the guqin freely at the imperial banquet. As a result, he was known as the #1 expert in the imperial harem of Zhou state. However, after Empress Li's death, Yi Baiming had never touched the guqin again. Who would have thought that today, for Yun Sheng's whim, he would play a song? Oriole, give them their wages and send the musicians away. Yun Sheng saw Yi Baiming sitting next to the guqin, looking down at it with a myriad of thoughts in his eyes. She knew that he must have recalled some memories. Since you want to learn the guqin, just find this prince. There is no need to trouble outsiders. His thoughts suddenly stopped. Yi Baiming hooked his finger at Yun Sheng, his eyes full of temptation. Yun Sheng had something to ask of him, so she was too lazy to care about outsiders. She immediately ran over without any integrity. Like a little pug, she obediently nestled beside Yi Baiming, very obedient. Yi Baiming found it somewhat funny, but in his heart he loved Yun Sheng's rare docility. Yi Baiming taught, Yun Sheng learned. Unknowingly, more than an hour had passed. Yun Sheng had just barely learned the basics of the guqin. If only your musical sense had 10% of your medical talent. Yi Baiming finished teaching and rubbed the space between his eyebrows. He had always thought that this little wild cat could learn anything. He did not expect that she would also have a difficult time. Just now, when he saw her look like she wanted to chop the guqin with firewood, he had the urge to laugh out loud. Do you think that everyone is like you and can learn anything easily? Yun Sheng was not in a good mood. If it were not for the Dihong song, she would not be willing to learn the guqin. But, speaking of which, can this guqin withstand magic or combat skills? Yun Sheng wanted to play the Dihong song. She remembered that whether it was Yuan Bupo or Shen Mimi, their instruments were not ordinary. Sure enough, Yi Baiming broke Yun Sheng's fantasy. No, if you have the idea of using the guqin as a weapon, I advise you to give up. The guqin is very fragile. If you want to achieve the effect of combat skills or magic, you need at least a sacred level guqin. Those are treasures that can only be found but not sought. Yun Sheng thought that when she practiced the guqin better, maybe she could entrust Zhou Qingchuan to find a guqin through the influence of the everlasting Chamber of Commerce. Chapter 392. I almost forgot. Xiao Wenshu came to the medical hall to look for you today. He said that you must attend the birthday banquet at the Yun residence in a few days. When did you get to know him? Yi Baiming told Yun Sheng about Xiao Wenshu's visit. Between his words, there was a hint of inquiry. Of course, he didn't tell Yun Sheng that the two of them were provoking each other and couldn't see eye to eye. Xiao Wenshu asked her to attend the birthday banquet at the Yun residence? Could it be that something big was going to happen at the birthday banquet? Yun Sheng was playing the zither when she heard this news. Her hand paused. The sharp zither string drew a line of blood on Yun Sheng's slender white finger. Yi Baiming frowned slightly and grabbed Yun Sheng's finger. The smear of red on her finger was slowly dyed red. Yun Sheng was about to say that it wasn't a big deal. She had the Shinong medical bracelet on her body, so such a small wound was nothing. Who would have thought that she would feel a warm and moist sensation on her fingertip? Yi Baiming's plump lips had already landed on her finger. The tip of his tongue brushed across her finger. A strange feeling spread from the bottom of Yun Sheng's heart. It was as if someone had thrown a stone into a still pool of water. You. Yun Sheng was embarrassed and anxious. Don't move. When Imperial Mother was alive, she treated my wounds like this. Yi Baiming licked the blood off Yun Sheng's finger clean. Her blood was different from the stench of magical beasts' blood. It was as if it was emitting a faint fragrance just like her. Yi Baiming's heart unconsciously rippled. When Empress Li was mentioned, Yi Baiming's voice had a trace of fluctuation. For some reason, Yun Sheng didn't pull her hand away. Her other hand mysteriously landed on Yi Baiming's hair and patted it as if she was comforting an injured beast. The two of them were speechless for a moment, but neither of them felt awkward. After a while, the blood on Yun Sheng's finger was gone. Only then did Yi Baiming loosen his grip. Looking at the broken strings, Yun Sheng curled her lips. Her beautiful eyes were as calm as an ancient well. She said as if she was chatting casually, I'm not going. If it were you, would you be willing to return to the palace to participate in the so-called family banquet? The relationship between the imperial palace and Yi Baiming was the relationship between the Yun residents and Yun Sheng. She was unwilling to return. This was also the reason why Yun Sheng would rather hide in the dojo than go to the pharmacy. One Uncle Yun and one second uncle. Her ears were already getting calluses from their constant nagging. The imperial palace is a place where people are eaten without spitting out the bones, but the residence of Yun is not. If it was in the past, I wouldn't have approved of you returning to the Yun residence either. However, these words were brought back by Xiao Wenshu, so the meaning is different. I'm afraid that something will happen to old General Yun. Putting aside Yi Baiming's personal grudges with the Dharma Temple, Xiao Wenshu's heavens, I was very effective. Although he didn't like Xiao Wenshu, Yi Baiming would never allow anything to happen to Yun Sheng because of his personal likes and dislikes. To Yun Sheng, the residence of Yun was where her roots were. Yi Baiming understood very well that Yun Sheng was a classic example of a person who was hard on the outside but soft on the inside. Her personality was exactly the same as old General Yun. She kept saying that she didn't like the residence of Yun, but from the last time when she helped Tang Yu, it could be seen that the residence of Yun's position in her heart was no less than little Ci Entong. You're saying? Something will happen to old General Yun's birthday banquet this time? Yun Sheng's expression changed when she heard this. It's better to be safe than sorry. If you don't want to go as a descendant of the Yun family, you can go as Wushuan Limitless Martial School, Yi Baiming reminded. The relationship between Yun Ba and Wushuan Limitless Martial School was no small matter. The deputy head of the Wushuan Limitless Martial School was also promoted by Yun Ba. Yun Sheng pondered for a moment, but still couldn't make up her mind. Time passed in the blink of an eye. Soon the day of Yun Ba's 60th birthday arrived. On the day of the birthday, the entire residence of Yun was filled with joy. Yun Ba had also changed into a festive outfit. He had been on the battlefield all year round and was used to wearing a helmet and armor. Not wearing a helmet all of a sudden really made him feel a little uncomfortable. There was an endless stream of people who came to congratulate the Martial Saint General on his 60th birthday. But in Yun Ba's heart, he hoped to see his granddaughter, Yun Sheng, come to acknowledge him as her master. Yun Songlong also rushed back. However, since he had left the residence of Yun Ba, he didn't greet the guests with the attitude of a master. Yun Sangshua acted like the mistress of the residence of Yun Ba, receiving guests from all over the place. Why are you alone? Yun Ba was unhappy to see that Yun Songlong was alone. He blew at his beard. The brothers of the hunting corps are outside. They said there were too many people and they didn't dare to barge in, Yun Songlong replied. Yun Ba shook his beard and stared blankly. Just as he was speaking, he suddenly heard the guard shout, "Guests have arrived. Elder Chen's family has arrived." Yun Ba's expression became even worse. He muttered, "Those who should be here didn't come, but those who shouldn't have come are here." Elder Chen's face was full of congratulations. "Old General Yun, congratulations, congratulations. This is just a small gift." Behind him was a group of children and grandchildren. The most outstanding of them was naturally the future crown princess, Chen Liena. "You brought a group of children and grandchildren over to celebrate my birthday. What is the meaning of this?" Yun Ba was furious when he saw this. After Elder Chen finished his congratulations, he pretended to look around. Why don't I see His Majesty and Her Majesty the Empress? Even His Majesty the Crown Prince didn't come? The Emperor of Zhou State didn't come personally to celebrate the birthday of an old official. He only ordered the palace eunuchs to send over a big gift. It seemed that Tang Yu's incident had more or less affected the Yun residence. Yun Ba's face darkened. Just as he was about to explode, he suddenly heard the guard shout, "Guests have arrived. Imperial Consort Wenren has arrived." Imperial Consort? Imperial Consort Wenren was the most favored consort of the Emperor of Zhou State other than the Empress. Other than the Empress, she was also the only imperial concubine with a son. It was just that her son was still young, and her family was also a prominent family in Jade Capital. However, Imperial concubine Wenren kept a low profile and rarely interacted with the court officials outside of her own family. This time, she personally came out of the palace to congratulate the Yun residents. It was quite rare. For old general's birthday, this consort has specially sent over a southern sea jade coral. Imperial consort Wenren's appearance was very delicate. Her facial features were quite similar to Wenren Xiu's. She came this time because of Wenren Xiu. Her troublemaking younger brother had told her that Yun Sheng of the Yun residence had helped him a lot and asked her to take care of the Yun residence. When Tang Yu's incident happened, the fourth prince was unwell. Imperial consort Wenren couldn't even take care of herself, so she didn't intervene. This time she came personally to congratulate old General Yun on his birthday. The Emperor and the Empress didn't come, but a consort came. This could be considered as giving some face to Yun Ba. Elder Qin snorted. Yun Ba's back also straightened a little. Just as he welcomed Imperial Consort Wenren in, he suddenly heard another voice. "Welcome, Yujing Soldier Hunting Union has sent over a gift." The Soldier Hunting Union sent over a gift because of Yun Songlong and Yen Yun. Even the Soldier Hunting Union was related to the Yun residence? The guests discussed animatedly. They didn't expect the general's residence, which was rumored to be on the verge of collapse, to have so many forces behind it. Thank you for your tip, 070 and 960 drops. Monday twist and twist for tickets. There will be more in the afternoon. Chapter 393. Suddenly he heard someone say, "Welcome, the everlasting Chamber of Commerce has sent 1,000-year-old profound snow ginseng." A classless Chamber of Commerce? Yun Ba couldn't remember when he had established a relationship with the everlasting Chamber of Commerce. However, he didn't mind receiving too many gifts, so he just accepted it first. Yun Ba looked to the side at Elder Qin, whose expression was getting uglier and uglier. In his heart, he felt more carefree than if he had drunk 10 jeans of good wine. A guest has arrived. Xia Si-ming from the Dharma Temple has arrived with a gift. Xia Wenshu walked into the crowded general's mansion and looked around. He was disappointed to find that Yun Xing wasn't here. Guests and gifts came in waves. In the hall, there was an endless stream of guests, but Yun Ba didn't see the person he wanted to see the most. In the end, he was already a little irritable, his old eyes staring at every guest that came in, as if he had a grudge against them for killing his son and stealing his wife. The guests were so scared that their hair stood on end, their faces pale as they took their seats. The birthday banquet was about to start, and the guests outside the Yun mansion were getting fewer and fewer. Yun Ba couldn't help but feel disheartened. Just as he was about to take his seat, he suddenly heard a shout from the door. The Wushuan Everlasting Hall's deputy director has led a group of disciples here to celebrate the birthday. Zhan Li strode in with a few disciples behind him. When Yun Ba saw them, his old eyes immediately became clear. Yun Ba was delighted and was about to go welcome the guests. His originally disappointed expression immediately disappeared. Behind Zhan Li were a few of his favorite disciples. They were the limitless three talents Yi Baiming, Bu Jiuxiao, Cheng Bai, Yun Sheng, and a few other female disciples. When Yun Songlong saw his niece, he was also very happy, but Yun Songshua's face was gloomy. "Old General, Zhan Li came late, please forgive me." Zhan Li handed over a gift. "It's good that you're here, there's no need to bring gifts. We're all family. Yun Ba's old face was smiling like a chrysanthemum, his iron palms fiercely slapping Zhan Li's shoulders. His eyes couldn't stop staring at his granddaughter. Zhan Li's eyes were wide open from the slaps, and he had a crying face. Yun Xing pretended to ignore him. She had struggled for a long time today and finally, under Zhan Li's persuasion, she came. Yun Xing was still worried about Yun Ba's health. He was old but strong. After seeing her granddaughter, his face glowed with health. He didn't look like he had any mishap at all. Yun Xing was a little puzzled. Her pair of beautiful eyes looked around, wanting to find Xia Wenshu and ask him what was going on. Coincidentally, she was met with Xia Wenshu's kind smile. Who would have thought that Yi Baiming would impartially block her direction and completely block Xia Wenshu's gaze? Zhan Li led his beloved disciples to their seats. Today's birthday banquet at the residence of Yun had been meticulously prepared. They had even invited the city's most famous opera troupe to set up a stage in the courtyard. The guests took their seats and the wine was served. Yun Ba was about to announce the start of the banquet. "A guest has arrived." Another long voice rang out. At this moment, the residence of Yun was already full of guests. Basically, all the guests on the list had arrived. How could there be another guest at this time? The gatekeeper hurried over and whispered in Uncle Yun's ear. When Uncle Yun heard this, his originally joyous face couldn't help but turn serious. He hesitated for a moment, then walked to Yun Ba's side and whispered. Yun Xing noticed that Yun Ba's expression had turned gloomy in an instant. "What are the Dark Crown Prince of Later Qin and Tian Kezi doing here?" Yun Ba lowered his voice, but the seats closer to him could still hear him clearly. Yun Songlong and Zhan Li, who were seated below, also stopped drinking. "The Dark Crown Prince of Later Qin has arrived." A sudden shout rang out. The residence of Yun was first in an uproar, followed by a deathly silence. When did the residents of Yun become friends with the Later Qin? Grand Secretary Qin, who had been in a bad mood earlier, immediately perked up and waited to see Yun Ba's good show. The guards of the residence of Yun stood in a row, and 3 dazzling men walked in. The 3 men were of different ages, but their identities were all top-notch existences in the Wuji continent. The one walking at the front was actually the youngest, but no one dared to look down on him. This person was dressed in a gorgeous black Qilin battle robe. His figure was tall and straight, like a treasured sword that was ready to be unsheathed at any time. He walked with a majestic gait. Even in the dark night, his pair of black eyes shone brightly, emitting a beast-like glow. His red hair was like fire, wild and wild. The one in the lead was the dark crown prince of later Qin. The person in the middle was dressed in an elegant green robe. It was a pity that he had a pair of upside-down triangular eyes, which revealed a trace of insidiousness. Xianwuji. Yun Songlong clenched his fists so tightly that they made cracking sounds. He stared unwaveringly at the man in the middle. The last person was a man in his 40s in the prime of his life. He had a bald head and a tiger-like forehead. The muscles on his body were smooth and tight and he looked very well built. With every step he took, the tiles under his feet sank a few inches. Although he was the last person to walk in, when he walked in, the sound of discussion was the loudest. This was especially so for the martial artists and generals present. When they saw this person, they discussed endlessly. Zhou State revered martial arts. To be able to make the martial artists of Zhou State so agitated, the other party must also be a peerless martial artist. Tian Kezi. Heavens, am I seeing things? It's the later Qin martial saint Tian Kezi. To be able to see two martial saints of the current era in one day for many martial artists, tonight was definitely an unforgettable night. Tian Kezi? Wasn't that the later Qin martial saint who fought to a draw with Yun Ba in the battle where Yun Songlong was seriously injured? Because of this, the three nations had no choice but to sign an armistice agreement, and the Grand Emperor's conspiracy had failed? When Yun Sheng saw these three people, her heart skipped a beat. Could this be the thing that Xiao Wenshu said was about to happen in the Yun residence? It was Yun Ba's 60th birthday, and the later Qin crown prince and later Qin martial saint, as well as Xian Wuji, who was at odds with the Yun residence, had all paid a visit at the same time. This matter was definitely not simple. Old General Yun, long time no see. How have you been? Why didn't you inform Tian Kezi that it's your 60th birthday? I also wanted to come and ask for a cup of wine to drink. When the burly man saw Yun Ba, he laughed as if he had seen a close friend of many years. Old brother Tian, you really like to joke. The wine in the Yun residence is just ordinary wine. How could we dare to trouble you to come and ask for wine? Yun Ba also knew that those who came did not come with good intentions. He slowly got up. Although he spoke in a jovial manner, his gaze was as sharp as a fierce tiger's. While Yun Ba and Tian Kezi were having a war of words, the hidden crown prince's thoughts were focused on finding the person he was looking for. He had already found out that the summoner called Yin Yun's true identity was Sun Si of the Yun residence. She was the former sky sorcerer and the only daughter of Yun Songhai. Today was Yun Ba's birthday, and he was sure that Yun Sheng would be present. There were countless people present, but the hidden crown prince fixed his gaze on Yun Sheng. It was her. Chapter 394. The Dark Crown Prince's gaze landed on Yun Sheng and his eyes narrowed slightly. When he saw the delicate and refined young lady behind Zhan Li, even though her appearance was very different from the one he had seen before, her facial features, especially that pair of bright eyes, were unforgettable. The Dark Crown Prince's thin lips pursed together and curled up slightly, revealing a cruel smile. In almost a second he confirmed Yun Sheng's identity. A trace of astonishment and surprise flashed across his eyes. His heart felt like it was being scratched by a cat's paw. Just thinking about her made him excited. This kind of explicit gaze made Yun Sheng very uncomfortable. The Dark Crown Prince's gaze was as if he was stripping off her clothes one by one. She was completely naked and it made her feel humiliated. Yun Sheng lifted her head and glared fiercely at the Dark Crown Prince with her beautiful eyes. In the Dark Crown Prince's eyes, Yun Sheng's actions were unruly and delicate. If it wasn't for the fact that there were people around, he would have already laughed out loud. Whether it was the grandson of the Yun residence or Yen Yun, Duguxiu was definitely going to be hers. Just as the Dark Crown Prince was recklessly sizing up his prey, two displeased gazes shot over. The Dark Crown Prince frowned and noticed the two people. One person was like the stars in the night sky, hiding in the dark. The other person was like the warm sun in winter, emitting a luster that was hard to ignore. Right at this moment, Yun Ba suddenly changed the topic. It's fine if Brother Tian is here to ask for wine. But could it be that the Dark Crown Prince and young city Lord Xian are also here to ask for wine? Everyone's gaze turned toward the Dark Crown Prince. Although Zhou State and later Qin State weren't at war, the Crown Prince of another state had entered the capital of another state without prior notice. This would inevitably raise the alarm. The Dark Crown Prince faintly smiled. Although he was smiling, his smile caused others to feel a chill run down their spines. He glanced around and his gaze landed on Yun Sheng. Yun Ba's question interrupted the three people's exchange of glances. Yun Ba also noticed the young man who came with Tian Kezi and could tell that he had an extraordinary identity. However, he didn't expect that person to be the Dark Crown Prince. Old General, there's no need to panic. Xiao came to the Jade Capital today to congratulate you on your birthday and also for the purple gold or vein at the border. The Dark Crown Prince retracted his gaze. It seemed that the lass had many protectors by her side. But it didn't matter. The law of the jungle was the Dark Prince's hobby. Yun Ba immediately understood what was going on when he heard about the purple gold mine. It seemed that the news of the purple gold mine had been leaked. Yun Ba was also very calm. He chuckled, "Many thanks to your highness for personally coming to celebrate this old man's birthday. However, I wonder what is this purple gold mine that your highness mentioned?" "Old man, you're still pretending." The Dark Crown Prince sneered. "Old General, don't hide it. Zhou State's appetite is not small. That purple gold or vein was originally an agreement between the three states to be developed together. Now Zhou State is the sole owner. Tang Yuan may be able to tolerate this, but my later Qin can't." As soon as these words were spoken, the crowd burst into an uproar again. The matter of the purple gold or vein couldn't be concealed. Sooner or later it would be spread out. However, the Dark Crown Prince kept saying that Zhou State was the sole owner of the entire purple gold or vein. Where did this come from? Only a few important people knew that the purple gold or vein had been divided into 3 parts. More than 50% of it had been obtained by the mysterious person, Tang Yuan. The remaining 50% was divided equally according to the agreement between Zhou State's emperor and Zhong Yi. "Crown Prince, I'm afraid you've misunderstood. My Zhou State did obtain some purple gold ore, but we definitely didn't obtain it alone. Crown Prince, I'm afraid you've been tricked by Tang Yuan's state. Our country only obtained 50% of the ore vein." Yun Songlong stepped forward and explained the ins and outs of the matter. "General Yun, there's no need to be so hypocritical. Don't beat around the bush. Zhou State is also well-intentioned. On the surface, they let Tang Yuan obtain 50% of the purple gold ore, but secretly sent troops to massacre Tang Yuan's magic smelting factory. This time, Tang Yuan suffered heavy losses. More than 100 sorcerers died or went missing. The purple gold ore was also completely looted. Apart from Zhou State, who else could do such a thing?" The Dark Crown Prince insisted. He was also furious when he heard the news. Zhou State and Tang Yuan actually excavated the purple gold or vein right under his nose without him knowing at all. Looted it all? Even Yun Sheng was bewildered. She didn't expect there to be such a development behind this matter. Who was so capable? Then why did Crown Prince come today? Before the birthday banquet started, the joyous atmosphere was completely washed away by the sudden arrival of the Dark Crown Prince and the others. With the martial saint of later Qin accompanying him and the young city lord of Grand Emperor City, the Dark Crown Prince came with full confidence this time. The atmosphere in the Yun residence had already become tense. Imperial Consort Wenren frowned and quietly ordered her servants to bring the news back to the palace immediately. "It's very simple. I'm naturally here today for the purple gold or vein. I don't care who the purple gold or vein ends up in. I only have one condition. I want half of the ore vein obtained by Zhou State," the Dark Crown Prince said. Yun Ba said in a deep voice, "Crown Prince, aren't you making things too difficult? What if my Zhou State isn't willing?" Zhou State definitely wouldn't hand over half of the ore because that was all the ore left in Zhou State's treasury. If they gave it all to the Dark Crown Prince, wouldn't Zhou State's efforts be wasted? If word got out, Zhou State would lose face. "You're not willing? Haha, old General Yun, do you want to personally lead the troops down south after the birthday banquet? My later Qin and Tang Yuan could join forces once 8 years ago. Why can't we join forces again 8 years later?" The Dark Crown Prince's words were filled with killing intent as if a storm was coming. He didn't expect the Dark Crown Prince to collude with Tang Yuan. If he didn't guess wrongly, the border was already filled with the troops of the 2 states. Even the usually calm Yun Ba was drenched in cold sweat. In the past few years, the Marquis of Jiyuan had gradually taken over the military power of the Yun residence. Currently, Zhou State's border was under Irani's control. If what the Dark Crown Prince said was true, then the situation at the Zhou State's border was definitely very dangerous. Even if Yun Ba wanted to lead the troops down south, it was already too late. This matter is of great importance and I can't make a decision alone. Dark Crown Prince, please wait for a moment. I'll immediately send someone to report to the Emperor of Zhou State. Yunba was burning with anxiety. Yunba had just finished speaking when a shrill voice dragged in from outside the door. The Emperor has arrived. Chapter 395. The Emperor of Zhou State still came in the end. Today was the birthday banquet of the Yun residents. The Emperor of Zhou State did not personally attend because he wanted to give the Yun residents the cold shoulder. However, the Emperor of Zhou State ordered people to keep an eye on the Yun residents. In just a few hours, the name list and background of every guest who entered the Yun residence appeared in the imperial study of the Emperor of Zhou State. However, who would have thought that such an ordinary birthday banquet would cause such a huge uproar? The mixed forces of various worlds even led to a war. This was something that the Emperor of Zhou State did not expect. As soon as the Emperor of Zhou State appeared, the Yun residence was immediately surrounded. Countless crossbows and imperial mages were lying in ambush in the dark. As long as the Emperor of Zhou State gave the order, no one in the Yun residence would be able to escape. The Emperor of Zhou State was dressed in a bright yellow imperial robe. He walked with a majestic gait and his aura was unparalleled. Long live the Emperor! Thunderous cheers came from both inside and outside the Yun residence. However, the Dark Prince and the others stood calmly. The Emperor of Zhou State could not help but show some anger on his face. His anger was not only directed at the Dark Crown Prince and the others, it was also directed at Yun Songlong and the others. The purple gold mine was divided into two. He originally thought that half of it had fallen into Tang Yuan's hands. However, after hearing the Dark Prince's words, the whereabouts of the ore were unknown. The Emperor of Zhou State's first suspect was the Sky Hunting Corps. What exactly is going on? Yun Songlong Yen Yun. I have already given you full authority over the purple gold mine. Could it be that you dare to deceive the Emperor and embezzle the purple gold mine without permission? The Emperor of Zhou State was furious. Yun Songlong was speechless. Seeing this, Yun Sheng walked out calmly. In front of nearly 1,000 people in the Yun residence, Yun Sheng was calm and said in a crisp voice, "Your Majesty is wise. The Sky Hunting Corps is loyal to Zhou State. The sun and moon can bear witness. Our hunting corps is just a newly established hunting corps. Even with all of our elites, we only have a few dozen hunters. When they entered the mine that day for the sake of the safety of the villagers, all of them participated in the rescue. Where would they find the manpower to plunder the remaining ores? If the Emperor did not believe it, he could ask the villagers in the mining area and the border guards. If His Majesty still did not believe it, he could ask the young city lord of Grand Emperor City. He was also in the mining area that day. If there is a single lie, my heavenly extermination hunting corps will be at His Majesty's mercy." When the Zhou State's emperor heard this, he realized that with the size and numbers of the heaven hunting army, it was impossible for them to kill hundreds of Tang Yuan's mages at the same time. Is this the young city lord of Grand Emperor City? May I ask if you noticed anything suspicious about the heaven extermination hunting corps that day? The Zhou State Emperor was unable to find a witness for the time being, but Xian Wuji was a ready-made witness. Xian Wuji did not expect that Yun Sheng would suddenly change the topic to him. This young city lord did not pay attention. Did young city lord really not pay attention, or was he pretending not to? Or did young city lord have other plans at that time? For example, secretly sneaking in and stealing the remaining ores? Yun Sheng's voice was stern as she suddenly questioned Xian Wuji. She already knew that Xian Wuji harbored evil intentions in the Jade Capital, but she did not expect him to be in hiding for so long and actually act together with the later Qin's hidden prince. When Yun Sheng said this, the Zhou State's emperor and the hidden prince could not help but become suspicious. The Heaven Extermination Hunting Corps did not have the strength to act on both sides, but it was different if it was the Grand Emperor City. With the thousands of years of foundation of the Grand Emperor City, it was not impossible for them to find out the location of the ore vein and secretly rob it. Xian Wuji almost cursed it out loud. He pointed at Yun Sheng and said, "Yan Yun, you are slandering us. My Grand Emperor City has never plundered a single piece of purple gold ore. What are your intentions for slandering my Grand Emperor City?" Enough. The hidden prince's cold eyes narrowed, appearing very impatient. He was not here to listen to a confrontation. No matter who stole the remaining purple gold ore, the Zhou State and Tang Yuan broke the alliance first. My later Qin must have a share of the loot. Since the Zhou State's emperor has personally come, then this crown prince will ask one thing. Is Zhou State handing over the ore or not? When had the Zhou State's emperor been questioned like this? Even if the later Qin's emperor personally came, the Zhou state's emperor might not lower his voice. He was immediately enraged. Duguxiu, you are only the later Qin's crown prince. What qualifications do you have to negotiate with this emperor? With the 200,000 allied troops of my later Qin and Tang Yuan, we have already arrived at the southern border of Zhou state. If the Zhou state's emperor is not willing to hand over the ore, we must fight this battle. 200,000 troops. The Zhou state's emperor's heart skipped a beat. For a moment he couldn't help but panic. In these years the Zhou state's generals had withered, and Yun Songlong had just resigned from the military. If this battle really started, the Zhou state wouldn't be fully prepared. Tang Yuan and the later Qin soldiers would be like wolves and tigers. The possibility of victory was extremely low. Thinking of this, the Zhou state's emperor's expression softened. He was an ingrate and knew how to observe people's expressions. He was like this when he was a prince and he was still like this now. Hidden prince, there must be a misunderstanding. If you don't believe me, I can order someone to take you to the smelter to check. My Zhou state really only obtained a quarter of the purple gold ore. The Zhou state's emperor's words were already filled with anxiety. When the Zhou state's officials saw this, including Yunba and the others, they all felt dissatisfied. In the eyes of the generals, the Zhou state's emperor's humble appearance could be said to be extremely cowardly. Yun Sheng couldn't understand. She faintly felt that the whole thing was very wrong. Could it be that after those mysterious people used the magic array to transfer the purple gold, or something else happened? Thinking of the magic array in the mining area that suddenly lost its effect overnight, it seemed that this matter was really a bit strange. Yun Sheng's heart skipped a beat. She glanced at Yi Baiming, only to see him smiling and throwing her a coquettish glance. Could it be? Your Highness, why don't you listen to this official's words? Tian Kezi, who hadn't spoken since he entered the room, suddenly spoke at this time. Master Tian, if you have something to say, just say it. The hidden prince was still very respectful towards Tian Kezi. Tian Kezi was the later Qin's martial saint. In later Qin he was the head of the later Qin's #1 martial arts hall, the 7 Stars Martial Arts Hall. When the hidden prince was young, he had learned combat skills in the 7 Stars Martial Arts Hall. This official thinks that when the 3 countries fought, blood would flow like rivers and the people would be plunged into misery and suffering. Later Qin, Zhou state, and Tang Yuan 8 years ago, for the sake of that purple gold or vein, the border area was filled with starving people. Every time this official thinks of that miserable scene, this official feels endless heartache. Tian Kezi's voice was full of emotion. From his appearance, it seemed that he wasn't a martial artist, but a great scholar who worried about the country and the people. Yun Ba cursed in his heart as he listened. Tian Kezi had a good reputation outside, but he was actually a hypocrite. Yun Ba despised people like him the most. However, his rash words already vaguely made Yun Ba have a bad feeling. Chapter 396. Lord Tian is right. The 3 states definitely suffered heavy losses in the war back then. Now that Penglai and Immortal Abode are at peace, our 3 states are in turmoil and will definitely attract unwanted attention. The Zhou state's emperor let out a sigh of relief. Good white face and bad black face. What were these 2 later Qin fellows' intentions? Yun Xing watched from the side. She didn't miss the gloating smile on Shen Wuji's gloomy face. The Zhou state's emperor and Dark Crown Prince. Do you remember how the 3 states signed the armistice agreement 8 years ago? Tian Kezi provoked as he glanced at Yun Ba. 8 years ago, when the 3 kingdoms were at war, the final battle was not between the armies of the 3 kingdoms. Instead, it was the battle between the martial saint of the great Zhou dynasty Yun Ba, and the martial saint of the later Qin dynasty Tian Kezi. That battle, which the continent's cultivators called the Battle of the Pinnacle, ended in a draw between the 2. The 3 states signed the armistice agreement and won the peace that followed for 8 years. Who could forget about this matter? Tian Kezi proposed such an idea at the crucial moment. Neither the Zhou state's emperor nor the Dark Crown Prince would refuse. The Zhou state's emperor had already made his decision to exchange the battle of the 2 of them for the battle of 200,000 soldiers. When Yun Ba heard this, he let out a sigh of relief. So they came looking for a fight. That old fellow Tian Kezi really thought that he could tie with him like he did 8 years ago. Yun Ba couldn't be any clearer. 8 years ago, in terms of true cultivation, he was stronger than Tian Kezi. It was only because he had used up a large amount of battle chi to save his second son, Yun Songlong, that they barely tied. Let's fight then. Tian Kezi, do you think I'm afraid of you? However, the expressions of several people in the crowd changed slightly. Yun Sangshua's hands and feet turned cold. She didn't expect that the bloody tycoon had her poison her father for so long. Uncle Yun also had a distressed expression. In the entire Yun residence, only he had noticed the changes in his master's cultivation during this time. He wanted to remind him, but his master had already agreed impatiently. So that was the case. Xiao Wenshu was shocked. It was actually a battle between martial sages. The Dark Crown Prince and Xian Wuji exchanged glances before Xian Wuji stepped forward and said, Wuji is also extremely honored to be able to meet two martial sages today. How about I Dihong City be the judge today? Since old General Yun has no objections, it is decided. 10 days from now, old General Yun and Tian Kezi will hold the competition between martial sages in my Zhou State's Emperor's Palace. If later Qin wins, Zhou State will hand over a portion of the purple gold or without any complaints. However, if Zhou State wins, later Qin will no longer pursue the whereabouts of the purple gold or vein. The Emperor of Zhou State and the Hidden Prince had no objections to this decision. The arrival of this battle between two peak martial sages meant that Yun Ba's 60th birthday banquet had come to an end. The guests discussed animatedly. Tomorrow morning, Zhou State would definitely be in an uproar. Yun Ba, this time, Zhou State's honor and disgrace will be shouldered by you alone. As I am busy with government affairs in the palace, I will not be able to free myself for today's banquet. Here is a 500-year-old blood ginseng. I will give it to Yun Ba to nourish yourself. After the Hidden Prince and the others left, the Emperor of Zhou State asked for Yun Ba's well-being and ordered someone to give him a blood ginseng. A moment ago he had ignored the Yun residents. Now he was asking for Yun Ba's well-being. The Emperor of Zhou State was indeed a two-faced villain. Yun Xing watched from the side and sneered in her heart. However, compared to the Night Fox, the Emperor of Zhou State was more hypocritical. If Yun Ba were to lose this competition, what Yun Xing was thinking was also what everyone in the Yun residence was thinking. Yun Songlong had been silent since the incident. Yun Sangshue pretended that she wasn't feeling well and didn't even see the guests out. She left the aftermath to Uncle Yun and left first. Zhan Li and the others were also sent to the door. Uncle Yun hesitated for a moment and suddenly called out to Yun Sheng. Young miss, please wait. This old servant has something to discuss with you. Yun Xing walked to the side. Uncle Yun looked anxious. Young miss, you must persuade old master. He can't compete with Tian Kezi. Uncle Yun, why do you say that? Do you think that old General Yun can't defeat Tian Kezi? Even if his cultivation has declined due to old age, his martial realm should be higher than Tian Kezi's. Yun Xing sensed that something was wrong. She looked at Uncle Yun's expression and saw that he was worried. She had noticed that Yun Ba had already quit drinking. He didn't touch a drop of wine at the birthday banquet. According to her earlier instructions, even if Yun Ba's cultivation declined, it would take at least a few years or even close to 10 years. Young miss, ever since you diagnosed old master last time, this old servant has been monitoring him. But recently when this old servant sparred with old master, I found that old master's strength has declined. Can you diagnose old master's body and see what's wrong with it? Uncle Yun originally didn't want to disclose this matter, but if Yun Ba was going to compete with Tian Kezi, then Yun Ba's strength would become a problem. I'm afraid that even if I'm willing to check, old General Yun won't appreciate it. Yun Xing sighed. Divine Dr. Yun. Xiao Wenshu, who had left the Yun residence with Yun Xing and the others, turned back. You should take a look at old General Yun. I've divined for him. He will face a bloody disaster in the near future. Young Master Ming, how could you? Yu Ji and Yu Mo's expressions changed. How could young Master Ming say the results of her divination? This was divulging heavenly secrets and was very disadvantageous for young Master Ming. Xiao Wenshu originally only wanted to give Yun Xing a hint, but who knew that the Dark Prince and Tian Kezi would suddenly appear? Xiu, I remember you. You're the girl who stole our carriage. Good, nothing good happens every time we meet you. Last time. Yu Ji sized up Yun Xing and was shocked. This female sorcerer was the female sorcerer they met 2 years ago. After not seeing her for more than 2 years, her appearance had changed quite a bit. What was even more shocking was her strength. Yu Ji and Yu Mo both discovered that Yun Xing, who was just an ordinary sorcerer 2 years ago, was now a master sorcerer. In 2 years she had broken through 2 magic realms. Even in the temple, people couldn't help but raise their eyebrows at such a cultivation level. Yu Ji, shut up. Xiao Wenshu's expression hardened. Yu Ji rarely saw young Master Ming get angry, so he blamed Yun Xing even more. However, Yu Mo glanced sideways at Yun Xing. If he didn't remember wrongly, young Master Ming had done something that went against his usual behavior because of her. Thank you for your reminder, Xiao Wenshu. I'll remember this favor. After hearing Xiao Wenshu's words, Yunxing also knew that Yunba's body might really have some hidden dangers. She had to carefully examine him. Chapter 397. Yun Sheng and Uncle Yun returned to the Yun residence. Inside the residence, the birthday banquet had been dismissed, and the servants were cleaning the courtyard in twos and threes. The people of the Yun family had already disappeared. Yun Sheng followed Uncle Yun all the way to Yunba's courtyard. The Yun residence was spacious, but there were few people in recent years, so the courtyards of the young masters and misses were all empty. Yunba was born a general, so the courtyard was quite simple, but there were a few tall broad-leaved parasol trees planted in it. When Yun Xing entered, she happened to hear Yun Songlong persuading Yunba. Do you think I can't beat Tian Kezi? Humph, 8 years ago he was already no match for me. 8 years later he is still no match for me. She heard Yunba's voice as soon as she entered. Uncle Yun, why did you bring her here? Humph, didn't someone say that he would never step into the Yun residence in this lifetime? When Yunba saw Yun Sheng and Uncle Yun walk in, there was a touch of joy in his old eyes, but then he turned his head away awkwardly. He looked like a child who was quarreling with his friends. Yun Xing muttered in her heart, this old man is really getting worse and worse. Father, Xing'er is already here. Why do you have to say such angry words to her? If you really make her leave in anger, I'm afraid you won't be able to sleep all night. Yun Songlong was very puzzled by his father's childish behavior as he grew older. He had heard from Yun Xing that Yunba had damaged his cultivation in order to save him, so it would be difficult for him to improve his martial arts realm in these years. Just now he had also carefully observed Tian Kezi. The other party's eyes were bright and his forehead was very full. Tian Kezi was more than 10 years younger than Yunba, and he was the martial sage worshipped by the later Qin royal family. These years he must have been well taken care of, so his cultivation would only improve. In this way it was hard to say who would win. I did say that I won't enter the Yun residence in this lifetime, but I said that I won't enter as a descendant of the Yun family. Today I'm here as a doctor. Old General, you're going to represent Zhou State in the martial sage competition in a few days. Since the reason for this competition is the purple gold vein, I'll reluctantly do a physical examination for you. Yun Sheng had been in contact with Yunba for quite some time now. She was already immune to this old man's poisonous tongue and provocation. What medical examination? The number of times I've killed enemies on the battlefield is more than the number of times you've eaten in your entire life. Why do I always need a doctor to examine me? I'm not that refined. Yunba fumed. You're not going to get checked? Don't tell me you're suffering from some kind of geriatric disease. Are you afraid of being found out and embarrassing? Yun Sheng countered. As expected, Yunba became anxious after hearing her words. Who said that this old man has geriatric disease? This old man eats 3 bowls of rice every meal. If you want to check, then so be it. I'm not afraid of you, Yunba said as he sat down. Yun Xing stepped forward and began to examine him. After a round of examination, Yun Xing didn't find anything out of the ordinary. How is it? This old man's body is very good. I can cripple that guy Tian Kezi with a single punch. He dared to behave atrociously at this old man's birthday banquet. This time, this old man will definitely make those old fellows from later Qin and Tang Yuan suffer a double loss. Yunba was extremely pleased with himself. The examination isn't over yet. What's there to be proud of? Yun Xing was annoyed. She pressed down on Yunba's wrist with the back of her hand. If there was nothing wrong with Yunba's body, there shouldn't be any problems with the competition. But what should she say about a bloody disaster? Her brows twitched and the jade marrow technique in her body quietly entered Yunba's body. The jade marrow technique in Yun Xing's body was a Taoist technique. It was used to cultivate one's body and mind. It was the best way to use it to nourish one's body. At the same time, it also gave Yun Xing the sharpest sense of touch. Yunba's cultivation was very high. The moment the strange power in Yun Xing's body entered his body, the fighting aura in his body immediately reacted. What kind of skill is this, little girl? It's not fighting aura nor is it sorcery? Yunba quickly discovered that his fighting aura had changed from its initial irritable state to a peaceful state. It actually automatically gave way to the jade marrow technique in Yun Xing's body. Yun Xing's jade marrow technique circulated all over Yunba's body. His muscles, blood, dantian, Yun Xing's expression changed slightly. She retracted her finger as if it had been pricked by a needle. Inside Yunba's body, the change in her expression was very subtle, but it didn't escape the eyes of the three people present. Yun Songlong understood Yun Sheng's personality very well. This girl was the calmest. Last time, even when she was treating his hand, she was still calm. But just now her expression changed. Sheng, or how is it? Yun Songlong hurriedly asked. Little girl, there's no need to act mysterious. Just tell me whether it's good or bad. This old man can take it. Yun Ba saw the change in Yun Sheng's expression. This competition cannot be carried out. Yun Sheng also knew that it was useless to hide anything in front of Yun Ba. She might as well get straight to the point. Why can't it be carried out? There's nothing wrong with this old man's body. If he hadn't seen Yun Sheng's medical skills with his own eyes, Yun Ba would have immediately turned and left. There's nothing wrong with your body, but this competition cannot be carried out. In other words, there's nothing wrong with a normal person. But if the opponent is Tian Kezi, then it's a different matter. Yun Sheng frowned. Old general, there's something wrong with your blood. You can't carry out Beast Blood Berserk. Beast Blood Berserk was the ultimate way for a martial practitioner to unleash their potential. Martial practitioners were different from magicians and summoners. They didn't have heaven-defying magic, nor did they have summoned beasts to assist them. Their only advantage was that during the process of advancing in the martial realm, they had fused with the blood of countless beasts, forming a tyrannical physique. When Yun Sheng was examining Yun Ba's body just now, she discovered that his body's condition had indeed improved compared to a few months ago. This should be because Yun Ba had stopped drinking. But when she used the jade marrow technique to examine him further, she discovered that there was something wrong with Yun Ba's blood. Yun Sheng could feel that as soon as Yun Ba's blood came into contact with internal energy, it would become abnormally active. It was like a river after a rainstorm, aggressive and aggressive. Under such circumstances, if Yun Ba mobilized all the fighting aura in his body, once he was injured, it was very likely that his blood would flow in reverse and eventually break out of his body. Yun Songlong and Uncle Yun were astonished. Little girl, what do you mean by that? What's wrong with this old man's blood? Yun Ba was a martial saint. In his life, every time he broke through in the martial realm, he would undergo a beast blood fusion. His last beast blood fusion was when he killed a commander-level demonic beast. After fusing with its blood, he advanced to martial saint. Without beast blood berserk, this meant that Yun Ba was bound to lose this competition. Chapter 398. When experts fought, especially martial saints, how could they not go berserk at the end of the battle? Yun Ba had also gone berserk at the last moment to fight Tian Kezi to a draw. Yun Ba's tall back trembled slightly when he found out that he couldn't go berserk. Although he still didn't believe it, Yun Sheng's confident tone made him lose his confidence. He recalled that he had not undergone beast blood berserk transformation for the past 8 years or so. Other than the fact that it was hard to find an opponent in Zhou state and that no one could provoke him to go berserk, the other reason was that berserk was very harmful to one's body. Especially when one's martial realm was higher, they wouldn't be able to use battle chi for a certain period of time after going berserk. Sheng are you sure? Why can't you go berserk? Yun Songlong's face was also anxious. He was a martial practitioner and understood that if Tian Kezi, who had gone berserk, went berserk against Yun Ba, who couldn't go berserk, Yun Ba would lose without a doubt. I'm sure. As for the cause of this phenomenon, I can't do anything for now. Yun Sheng was perplexed. She was sure that Yun Ba didn't show any signs of being poisoned, nor did he have any internal injuries. It was just that the blood in his body was very strange. For the time being, she couldn't think of any solution to this problem. If she had discovered this earlier, she might have been able to find a solution. But Yun Ba and Tian Kezi were going to fight in 10 days. It was already too late. Sheng, you must have a solution. You can even cure second uncle's hand, can't you? Yun Songlong begged Yun Sheng. He already believed Yun Sheng's words. Yun Ba, who usually liked to argue with Yun Sheng, didn't say a word at this moment. His expression was gloomy as he sat on the armchair. Uncle Yun couldn't help but advise, Master, just take it as this old servant begging you. It's only a competition, you should. Yun Ba smiled, his voice carrying some fatigue. Yun Song, don't you understand? The Yun residence is already in a difficult situation. Yun Sheng was silent. Yun Songlong's eyes darkened and Uncle Yun's old eyes couldn't help but moisten. Everyone in the room understood that this battle did not only concern Yun Ba's reputation, nor did it concern the ownership of a quarter of the purple gold mine. It also concerned the lives of hundreds of people in the Yun residence. The actions of the Emperor of Zhou State these days had made it clear that he intended to deal with the residents of Yun. It was only because of Yun Ba's existence that he did not take action. If Yun Ba couldn't even defend the glory of a martial saint, then what was the point of keeping the Yun residents? Little girl, let me ask you one more time. If I insist on going berserk with the beast blood, what will the result be? Yun Ba raised his head, his eyes filled with determination. After going berserk once, I'm afraid that if it's light, you'll lose all of your do qi. If it's serious, you'll be crippled. If you're not careful and get injured by the enemy, you'll die from blood loss. Yun Xing said word by word. Yun Xing did not sound like she was joking at all. She was serious. She even wanted to persuade Yun Ba not to force himself, just like Uncle Yun. This old man is tired. Yun Song, see the guests out. Yun Ba closed his eyes tiredly and raised his hand, gesturing for the guests to leave. Yun Ba had already made up his mind. He would rather fail in the beast blood mineralization and die than flee at the last minute and become the laughingstock of the entire Zhou state. Uncle Yun could only leave with Yun Songlong and Yun Sheng. Uncle Yun, I'll have to trouble you to bring over the old general's daily diet and the medicinal pills he takes for me to see. Even though Yun Ba had already made up his mind, Yun Xing still suspected that Yun Ba's current condition was caused by someone. If she could be sure that it was man-made, then there might be a chance to turn the situation around. Yun Ba's diet had always been personally taken care of by Uncle Yun, so he quickly brought over all of Yun Ba's diet and elixirs for Yun Sheng to take a look. Yun Sheng looked through them one by one and did not find any problems. That's all? Uncle Yun, think about it again. Is there anything else that we missed? Yun Sheng reminded Uncle Yun. There's really nothing else. The old general is now doing idle work in the imperial court and doesn't have the habit of socializing outside. There's really something that we missed. Alright, third Miss cooks soup for the old master every day. Uncle Yun suddenly remembered this matter. Apart from the daily diet and elixirs that he had personally arranged, there was only third Miss soup. Yun Sangshue cooks soup? What kind of soup is it? Yun Sheng had also noticed that she had not seen Yun Sangshue after the incident at the Yun residence. Logically speaking, with such a big incident happening at the birthday banquet and Yun Sangshue being the actual ruler of the Yun residence, how could she not ask about it? It's all ordinary chicken soup and ginseng soup. The old master drinks a bowl of it every afternoon. Uncle Yun also felt a little strange. Why did Yun Sheng suddenly ask about this? Uncle Yun, from tomorrow onwards, secretly instruct the servants to leave some of the soup for the old general. Remember to send the leftover soup to the medical hall, Yun Sheng instructed. Sheng, are you suspecting third sister? That's impossible. How could third sister harm father? Yun Songlong did not believe her. I'm just suspecting. Let me see the leftover soup first. Yun Sheng also brought back a portion of the elixirs that Yun Ba had taken. As the night deepened, Yun Ba sat alone in the room. Ever since his wife died more than 20 years ago, he had not remarried and lived alone in the huge courtyard. In the courtyard, the red lanterns used at the birthday banquet swayed in the night wind. Yun Ba walked out of the courtyard alone. He opened his arms and looked at his palms. Compared to the past, his hands had aged quite a bit. Yun Ba's figure flashed and he had already rushed out of the courtyard. Who's there? The hidden guards hiding in the courtyard of the Yun residence were alarmed. It's me. You don't have to follow me. This old man is going out for a walk. After Yun Ba finished speaking, his voice had already become one with the night, disappearing into the boundless night. The streets of the Jade capital were already empty. Yun Ba walked along the long street until he reached the little Ci Entong. He did not make a sound and did not alarm anyone in the medical hall. He entered the courtyard of the medical hall and walked into an unlocked room. This was a narrow but tidy room. There were only some simple furniture inside and a person was lying on the bed. Within the icy blue sleeping cloud dream magic formation, Yun Songhai was as silent as he had been for countless days and nights in the past. He seemed to be sleeping quietly without making a sound. Yun Ba walked around the head of the bed and sat on the side. He looked at the person on the bed who had once made him furious and was also the son he was most proud of in his life. One was lying quietly, the other was sitting without making a sound. Unknowingly, most of the night had passed. No one knew that in the past few months, Yun Ba would come to the little Ci Entong every other day. He would sit there for 3 to 4 hours from midnight to dawn. Chapter 399. Unbeknownst to the people in the medical hall, Yun Ba sat beside the magic formation and scrutinized Yun Songhai. After finding out about Yun Xing's background, he went around and found out about Yun Songhai's whereabouts. When he saw Yun Songhai in this state for the first time, Yun Ba almost couldn't accept it. He even had the urge to beat Yun Songhai awake. However, when he came into contact with Yun Songhai's ice-cold hands and feet and his almost still breathing, Yun Ba shrank back. However, tonight Yun Ba was a little different. "Songhai, I'm afraid that I won't be able to come and see you in the future." He sat for a moment and said, "You are much more capable than your old man. You raised a good daughter. It's a pity that I won't have the chance to see her grow up, get married and have children. You have to work harder and wake up. As long as you wake up, I won't chase you out of the house anymore." At this point Yun Ba couldn't continue. He stood up abruptly and looked back at the firstborn, who was still unconscious in the magic circle. Then he walked out sadly. When Yun Ba walked out of the house, the Yun Dream Ice Slumber magic formation shone brightly with blue light. Yun Songhai, who had been unconscious for many days, suddenly had a trace of crystal at the corner of his eyes. A drop of hot tears slid down from the corner of his eye. A day later, Uncle Yun indeed followed Yun Sheng's instructions and delivered the soup that Yun Sangshue had brewed. After Yun Sheng checked it, she found that there was nothing wrong with the soup. The remaining 2 days were the same. Uncle Yun secretly ordered Yun Sangshue's maidservant to leave a portion of the soup, but she didn't find anything. Until the day before the competition, Yun Sheng checked Yun Sangshue's soup one last time, but she still didn't find any clues. Tomorrow was the day of the competition between Tian Kezi and Yun Ba. The news had already spread throughout the entire Jade capital. As the Great Zhou dynasty worshipped martial arts, the commoners of the Great Zhou dynasty looked forward to such competitions. However, the Jade capital was not Hunting Citadel after all. The commoners could not afford the tickets to the Hunting Citadel's arena. This time it was a competition between two martial sages of the Great Zhou dynasty. Furthermore, it was the Great Zhou's archenemy Ho Qin. All the commoners of Jade capital fell into an unprecedented passion. In the city many bets had already been set up. They were betting on the battle between the martial saints of the two countries. If the Emperor of Zhou State hadn't had the foresight to hold the competition in the Imperial Palace, just the tickets alone would have been a sizable income. But this time, Yun Sheng had no intention of using this competition to make a killing. She was still worried about Yun Ba's health. "Yun Sheng, we have a way to sneak into the Imperial Palace. Do you want to watch the competition with us?" Gufeng and Qi went to the medicine hall to find Yun Sheng. Although the competition this time was held in the Imperial Palace, the Emperor of Zhou State still invited some of the nobles and members of the imperial family to watch the competition. In the Yun residence, only direct blood relatives could watch the competition. Yun Sheng hadn't returned to her family, so she shouldn't be able to enter the Imperial Palace. Qi, on the other hand, was a member of Wanlong Gambling House, so he was able to get a few places to enter the palace. Wanlong Gambling House is also participating in this bet, right? What are the odds? Yun Sheng asked casually as she fiddled with the medicine in her hands. In the past, Yun Sheng couldn't help but join in the fun, but this time, most people are betting that old General Yun will win. We also joined in the fun and bet a little. "Yun Sheng, don't worry. We all support old General Yun," Gufeng said. The citizens of Zhou State naturally supported Yun Ba, but Yun Sheng knew that Yun Ba's chances of winning this time weren't high. However, she couldn't say too much about this matter. But last night, there was a bet of unknown origin that Tian Kezi would win. The amount was as much as 100,000 purple gold coins, she interrupted. When Yun Sheng heard this, she was careless and the soup bowl fell to the ground. The sharp shards cut her hand. "Hey Yun Sheng, why are you so clumsy? I said that person's head must have been kicked by a mule. He actually bet on Tian Kezi to win. No matter how you look at it, old General Yun is more powerful than that guy called Tian Kezi. Besides, this is Zhou State's territory. If we each spit a mouthful of saliva, we can make those later Qin people suffer." Gufeng helped Yun Sheng clean up in a flurry. "Hey Yun Sheng, what medicine is in your bowl? Why did it become like this when it was stained with blood?" Gufeng looked at the broken bowl and found that Yun Sheng's blood had already turned the color of ink. He knew that Yun Sheng liked to fiddle with strange things. Yun Sheng and Qi lowered their heads to look. How could it be? That bowl contained the leftover soup that Yun Sangshue had given to Yun Ba under Uncle Yun's orders. That's the medicine that old General Yun has been taking recently. Yun Sheng looked at the blood that had changed color and felt a little puzzled. Why did the medicine change color when it was stained with blood? She had checked it earlier and found that there was no poison in the medicine. Why would old General Yun take this kind of medicine? Qi took a look and his expression changed slightly under the cloak. He squatted down and picked up the broken bowl. Little green. A small green snake slithered out from under his cloak. It slithered around the mouth of the bowl and flicked its tongue, making a hissing sound. What's wrong? Is there something wrong with the soup? But I've already checked it. There's no poison in it. It's just an ordinary medicine. Yun Xing found it strange. This isn't poison in the ordinary sense. It's not poisonous in itself. Who prepared this medicine for old General Yun? How could they be so vicious? How long has old General Yun been taking this medicine? Even Qi, who was usually as calm as a cucumber, couldn't help but change his tone at this moment. About 3 months. This medicine was given to old General by Yun Sangxue, the third miss of the Yun residence. Yun Sheng's heart sank. How could she be so careless? She had forgotten that Qi was the most knowledgeable about poisons. Why didn't she think of getting Qi to study it together? It was all her fault for being too confident. She thought that she could see through any illness or poison just because she was well versed in traditional Chinese and Western medicine, ancient medicine, and magic medicine. Wasn't the third miss of the Yun residence Yun Ba's daughter? Qi couldn't help but become cautious. He checked the medicine again to make sure that his and Little Green's judgment wasn't wrong. Qi, if you have something to say, just say it. No matter who it is, as long as I'm sure there's something wrong with this medicine, even if it's the Heavenly Emperor, I'll find out who it is. Yun Sheng was extremely anxious. Yun Ba was going to compete tomorrow. At this critical juncture, how could she not be anxious after confirming that Yun Ba was really poisoned? If I'm not wrong, Yun Sangxue added some magical beast amniotic fluid into the medicine that she gave old General Yun, she said slowly. Chapter 400. Amniotic fluid? Wasn't that the fluid that humans and magical beasts used to nourish their babies when they gave birth? Yun Xing didn't understand. What did this have to do with Yun Ba's current condition? Is amniotic fluid fatal? Yun Xing tried to recall. She had never heard of such a thing. Not under normal circumstances, but if it's mixed with blood, it will. The reason why I know amniotic fluid is fatal is because of Little Qing. Abandon rarely spoke about his and Little Qing's past. This was the first time he spoke about Little Qing in front of Yun Sheng and Gufeng. When Abandon was still a child, he was an orphan. One day when he passed by a forest, he saw a dying giant snake. The snake's body was as thick as 2 buckets. The scales all over its body were like armor made by the best blacksmiths. Its eyes were the size of lanterns, and there was a small protrusion at the top of its head. It was a magical beast of unknown rank. If Abandon encountered such a magical beast on a normal day, he would only die. But that day the giant snake Abandon encountered was already on its last breath. There was a bloody opening under the snake's abdomen. Blood gushed out endlessly like a fountain. When Abandon saw the giant snake, he was so frightened that he didn't dare to move. What puzzled him was that the giant snake wasn't like ordinary snakes that laid eggs. There was a lump of bloody flesh wriggling at the opening under its abdomen. Abandon boldly walked forward and saw the thing under the snake's abdomen clearly. As it turned out, the giant snake was a female snake that was giving birth. Because it was giving birth alone, it accidentally let the amniotic fluid in its body flow into its abdomen, causing a hemorrhage. Blood clots blocked the bottom of the giant snake's abdomen. The little snake was about to suffocate to death. At this point, the giant snake knew that it was not going to live. It hissed at Abandon. For some reason, the pleading look in the giant snake's eyes made Abandon feel sorry for it. He even forgot about his fear and walked forward to help the giant snake dig out the blood clot from its belly. It was also with Abandon's help that the thumb-sized snake finally came back to life. Unfortunately, the large snake could not stop bleeding and was unable to heal itself. In the end, it bled to death. That little snake that was abandoned and rescued was later Little Green. From then on, Abandon and Little Apple depended on each other for survival until Abandon was discovered by Teacher Mary and brought into the Royal Magic Academy. Hearing Qi's words, Yun Sheng suddenly recalled the news of a pregnant woman giving birth that she had heard on the internet before she transmigrated here. It was a very controversial news back then. The pregnant woman's condition was similar to what Abandon had said about the magical beast giving birth to the baby snakes. In medical terms, this clinical phenomenon was called amniotic fluid blockage. Whether it was the amniotic fluid of a human or a magical beast, the amniotic fluid itself was very dirty. If the amniotic fluid was not careful during the operation, it would cause blood contamination and eventually lead to massive bleeding. At that time, that woman's amniotic fluid blockage also caused massive bleeding and required a blood transfusion of more than 10,000 milliliters. The hospital was helpless, and the only solution was to remove the uterus. However, due to the indecision of the pregnant woman's mother-in-law and husband, the uterus was not removed in the end. In the end, she bled to death on the operating table. When this news was spread, Yun Sheng felt ashamed for a long time and cursed that there was actually such a medical accident in this era. What she did not expect was that she would encounter a similar situation on the boundless continent. The hidden danger that had been dormant in Yun Ba's body for several months was actually caused by the magical beast's amniotic fluid, and the cause of this situation was actually Yun Sangxue. The magical beast's amniotic fluid is a very special poison. It is not poisonous by itself, but it is the most overbearing poison. Once it is consumed for a long time, regardless of whether it is a mage or a warrior, the magical power and chi in the body will weaken. The most fatal thing is that once a person is injured, the wound cannot be stopped bleeding, and the poisoned person will bleed to death. Until today, every time Abandon recalled the scene of the large snake bleeding non-stop that day, his heart would still palpitate. With Abandon's explanation, Yun Sheng and Gufeng already understood. If they had not met Abandon, Yun Sheng would not have been able to find something like the magical beast's amniotic fluid no matter how long she searched. At this moment, the expressions and moods of the people present were greatly different. It can't be right? Then the third miss of the Yun residence actually wanted to murder her own father? Gufeng was shocked. He had heard that it was easy for large families to fight and scheme against each other, but he did not expect that Yun Sangxue, who looked so graceful and noble, would actually do such a thing. Yun Sheng was also struggling in her heart. Although she had already figured out the peculiarity of the medicinal soup, the matter was still very troublesome. Not to mention that the person who had poisoned her was actually Yun Sangxue. The competition between the martial sages of the two countries was imminent. If Yun Ba knew the truth at this time, he would definitely be heartbroken. This matter could not be told to Yun Ba. Abandon, can you determine which magical beast's amniotic fluid belongs to? Also, is there a way to save him? What Yun Sheng wanted to know the most now was whether there was a way to cure the amniotic fluid poison in Yun Ba's body. Yun Sheng, to tell you the truth, I only know that the amniotic fluid of magical beasts has such a harmful effect. I am not a doctor and do not know how to cure this amniotic fluid of magical beasts. Moreover, you said just now that the old general has unknowingly consumed this medicinal soup mixed with the amniotic fluid of magical beasts for 3 months. I am afraid that the amniotic fluid of magical beasts has already contaminated all the blood in his body. Abandon shook his head. Is there no way? Yun Sheng was still unwilling to give up. She had no clue at all. Yun Ba's blood must have been deeply contaminated. Let's not talk about how much battle chi he could still use. Regardless of how much fighting power he had, if it was in the modern world, she could use medical equipment to circulate his blood and replace it with new blood for a period of time. But in the boundless land, she simply did not have such means. Yun Ba would definitely not believe that the amniotic fluid of magical beasts was the real deal. But as long as he was not careful during the competition, he would be injured. Once he was injured, the consequences would be unimaginable. Moreover, Yun Sheng was already certain that Yun Sangxue must have colluded with the later Qin or even the people of the Grand Emperor city. That despicable person Tian Kezi would definitely catch Yun Ba's hidden danger during the competition. Oh right, Yun Sheng, you can ask the people in the Dharma Temple. Perhaps if there is no way with ancient medical skills, there might be a way with light magic. Gufeng thought for a while and said somewhat guiltily, actually, there is a special purification spell in light magic. It's a pity that I am too useless. I'm not good at light magic and can't help you. That's right, Gufeng. You reminded me. Yun Sheng recalled the light magic that Xiao Wenshu had used in front of her previously. That miraculous effect of reviving the dead. Perhaps Xiao Wenshu really had a way. Chapter 401. Xiao Wenshu was surprised that Yun Sheng had come in the middle of the night. Why are you looking for our Si Ming in the middle of the night? Yuemo had an ominous feeling when he saw Yun Sheng. Yuemo, don't talk too much. Bring me some tea. Xiao Wenshu smiled faintly when he thought that Yun Sheng would think of him when she was in trouble. Yun Sheng hid the fact that Yun Sangxue had poisoned Yun Ba and told him that Yun Ba might have been poisoned by the amniotic fluid of magical beasts. I didn't expect that the poison in old General Yun's body would be amniotic fluid of magical beasts. Amniotic fluid poison, I've also heard of it in the Zhao Ting. I just didn't think that it would be used on old General Yun. Xiao Wenshu muttered to himself. He was very surprised by Yunxing's discovery. I'll get straight to the point. I came here today to ask for your help. I heard that the Dharma Temple has a high-level light magic that can purify a person's body. I want to ask you. Yunxing hesitated for a moment but still said it. Xiao Wenshu was startled when he heard it. I knew that nothing good would come out of you. Do you think that high-level light magic is like cabbage or radish that can be found everywhere? Our arbiter of fate can't use light magic casually, especially on people who are destined to die. Solitary Rain, who had just delivered the tea, immediately stomped his feet. Xiao Wenshu also revealed an awkward expression. Because light magic was too heaven-defying, it really couldn't be used casually. However, when he saw the pleading look on Yunsheng's face, the rejection that was already at the tip of his tongue could not be said. Ximing. This time even Umo, who usually didn't speak much, spoke up to oppose Xiao Wenshu's help. He and Umo both knew that Yunba's matter wasn't simple this time. Although they didn't know about the existence of the heavenly fate mirror, Elder Ximing's letter had already stated that Yunba's death was destined to happen. Elder Ximing had also warned that Xiao Wenshu only needed to protect Zhou State's royal family and not interfere in other matters. Young Judge Ming had always obeyed Elder Judge Ming's words, but this time was an exception. First, Xiao Ximing ignored their persuasion and recklessly told Yun Sheng that when Yunba was going to face a bloody disaster, she had already revealed part of the heaven's secret. Revealing the heaven's secret, even if it was just a small part, would cause a backlash in the future. If young Master Ming were to help Yunba, it would be going against the will of the heavens. It would affect his future cultivation. Yu Ji and Umo didn't dare to think any further. At this moment, the two of them were somewhat resentful towards Yun Sheng. Although they were still young and didn't know much about the matters between men and women, they have already discovered that since young Master Ming pretended to be GMO and entered the little Ciantong, young Master Ming became somewhat different. In the past, young Arbiter Ming was a woman of few words, like an ice sculpture. However, the current young Master Ming was clearly much more amiable. Just like his name, a smile would appear on his face from time to time. This was especially true for this female magus called Yun Sheng. When she appeared, young Master Ming's gaze towards her became as gentle as a ball of cotton, causing the two of them to whisper to each other. Disaster. He was a living source of calamity. Yun Sheng naturally didn't know that because of her appearance, the hearts of the two little magi in the Dharma temple had been turned upside down. In Xiao Wenshu's heart, how could it not be the same? He also knew that he could openly reject Yun Sheng. Since Yun Ba's death was shown by the Heaven's Mandate Mirror, it was destined. No one could change it. However, if Yun Ba died, she would probably be very sad. Seeing the difficult expressions on the faces of the people in the Dharma temple, Yun Sheng thought that Xiao Wenshu didn't want to harm his own magic power to save Yun Ba. Xia Ximing, I won't let you waste your energy for nothing. If you save old General Yun, I will hand over the secret method to refine the tribute of the moon god. I believe that this secret method can raise the grade of the magic medicine in the Dharma temple by at least 1 grade. When Yun Sheng said this, Yu Ji and Umo, who were originally glaring angrily at Yun Sheng, were shocked. The two of them pointed at Yun Sheng and stammered, "What did you say? You were the one who refined the high-grade magic medicine, tribute of the moon god?" It was no wonder that Yu Ji and Umo were so shocked. In the past half a year, the appearance of this high-grade magic medicine on the mainland had caused almost all the magi in the Dharma temple to be in a terrible fix. All the magus apothecaries had tried to refine the tribute of the moon god, but even the most skilled magus apothecaries in the Dharma temple had failed. "Miss Yun, you don't have to do that," Xiao Wenshu hurriedly said. He didn't know why, but he hated interacting with Yun Sheng in this way of bargaining. He only wanted to help her because he wanted to make her happy. He didn't know when it had started, but it might have been during his time in Little Ciantong, but he had already gotten used to it. Every evening Yun Sheng stood in the medical hall and flipped through the daily accounts. Sometimes she frowned, sometimes she smiled faintly. The 2 dimples at the side of her mouth would cause him to fall into a daze. Ah! Umo almost spilled the tea that was about to be served. Had Ximing gone crazy? That was the tribute of the moon god. It was a high-grade magic medicine that could change a person's magic constitution and turn a good-for-nothing into a magus. If they could unravel the secret of this magic medicine, it would undoubtedly be extremely beneficial to the Dharma temple. Xiao Wenshu waved his hand unhappily. It's not that I don't want to save old General Yun, but just using light purification magic won't be able to cure the poison in old General Yun's body. Xiao Wenshu had heard from Yun Sheng that Yun Ba had misused the amniotic fluid of magical beasts for 3 months. He was well versed in medicine and had a good understanding of the human body's condition. He knew that 3 months was neither too long nor too short a period of time. It was enough for the poison to seep into Yun Ba's internal organs. Even with high-level purification magic, it could only remove the amniotic fluid on the surface. But if they wanted to completely remove the amniotic fluid in Yun Ba's bones, internal organs and blood, magic alone would not be enough. What else do you need? I will definitely think of a way to prepare it. Yun Sheng had the everlasting Chamber of Commerce behind her. She believed that even if she couldn't cure Yun Ba's poison in a short period of time, she could definitely use the everlasting Chamber of Commerce's power to find other ingredients. But what Yun Sheng didn't expect was that the one that could cure Yun Ba's poison was actually, I'm afraid that you won't be able to prepare that item. That item is the fairy clan's water of life. The water of life can only be found in the depths of the immortal residence's sacred mountain of the fire fairies. The water of life is very precious. Even the fairy clan can't easily use it. And everyone knows that the fairy clan of the immortal residence hates humans the most. Also, looking at the time, it's already too late to go back and forth between the immortal residence and Zhou State. Xiao Wenshu sighed. Chapter 402. It would take at least 2 months to travel from Zhou State to the immortal residence, and they would have to cross Tangyuan on the way. Even if they reached the immortal residence, Yun Sheng might not be able to find the water of life. In that case, it's almost impossible to save him, Yun Sheng pondered. It's very difficult. And from the looks of it, it's already too late. It's better to persuade old General Yun to give up on this competition. Seeing Yun Sheng's gloomy appearance, Xiao Wenshu also felt a wave of pain in his heart. Since it was a calamity of death, it was not so easy to resolve. This time Yun Ba still had a slim chance of survival. He won't give up and he can't give up. If he loses this time, the Yun residence will collapse. Yun Sheng looked at the clock. It was already midnight. Xia Siming, I will still hand over the refining method of the praise of the moon goddess. Yun Sheng quickly made a decision in her heart. After hearing Yun Sheng's words, Xiao Wenshu nodded. Yun Sheng also very readily wrote down the refining method of the high-grade magic medicine, the praise of the moon goddess, to Xiao Wenshu. When Xiao Wenshu saw the prescription, he couldn't help but reveal a look of surprise. As expected of Yun Sheng. Every time she would surprise him. Around daybreak, Yun Sheng, who had slept through the night, returned to the medicine hall. To her surprise, Yi Baiming was waiting for her in the medicine hall. He seemed to have been waiting for the whole night. In front of him was a chessboard. On the chessboard there were 2 black and white pieces. They must have gone through a fierce battle earlier. The black and white pieces each occupied one side and were evenly matched. For a moment they were in a deadlock. Why are you here? Yun Sheng was a little surprised. Logically speaking, Yi Baiming, as a prince, should be in the palace to receive the crown prince's visit. Yi Baiming did not speak and the atmosphere was a little cold. Yi Baiming was very unhappy. A rare low pressure was brewing around him. To be exact, Yi Baiming had been waiting for Yun Sheng in the medicine hall since yesterday evening. In today's competition, he knew that although Yun Sheng did not say anything, she must be worried about old General Yun. However, Yun Sheng was not a member of the Yun residence and did not have an official position. She could not enter the palace. Therefore, Yi Baiming specially thought of a way to ask Yun Sheng as a maidservant for her to follow him to the palace to watch the competition in a few days. Yun Sheng. Ever since the day of old General Yun's birthday, Yi Baiming had a vague feeling that Yun Sheng had something on her mind, but she did not say anything. She just ran back and forth between the medical hall and the medicine hall. Why did she go to the temple in the middle of the night? What happened to that damned little wild cat? Why didn't she look for him? Why did she look for Xiao Wenshu? She had only met him a few times and was always pretending to be friendly. What was there to look for? Night Fox, if you want to play chess, go back to your room. Yun Sheng looked at his constipated face and tried to recall how she had offended him recently. She was upset and did not have time to guess what was on his mind. Why did you look for Xiao Wenshu? Yi Baiming asked gloomily. How did you know I went to look for him? I looked for him to ask about some medical matters. You don't understand. Yun Sheng huffed. She looked at Yi Baiming and her expression darkened. He was being despised. The little wildcat dared to despise him. Yi Baiming's heart ached at the thought of her and Xiao Wenshu discussing medical issues in such a lovey-dovey manner. Yi Baiming suddenly grabbed Yunsheng's hand and pulled her into his arms. Yunsheng jumped in fright. She did not know what was wrong with Yi Baiming. His gray eyes darkened. Yi Baiming stared at Yunsheng. His handsome face was only a few inches away from Yunsheng. The two of them were so close that they could feel each other's breath on their faces. This prince forbids you from having any more contact with Xiao Wenshu. It looks like I'm not good enough as your retainer. From now on I'll really have to follow you 12 hours a day. Yi Baiming's domineering tone made Yunsheng's heart beat faster. She forcefully pushed Yi Baiming, but found that this guy's body was really hard. He was like a wall and she could not move him at all. Yi Baiming, speaking of which, were you behind the purple gold mine incident? Yunsheng glared at him. She thought about it and felt that Yi Baiming's sudden appearance during the purple gold mine incident was not the right time. In addition, he was so black-bellied. If Tang Yuan's Li Xiao was stolen by someone else, then the first person to suspect would definitely be Yi Baiming. Yi Baiming smiled wickedly and did not answer. He lowered his head and pressed his forehead against Yunsheng's neck. He shifted Yunsheng into a more comfortable position and held her in his arms. He also did not sleep the entire night, but when he smelled Yunsheng's pleasant medicinal fragrance, his originally depressed mood improved a lot. It really was you. Aren't you embarrassed? You caused the trouble and you want the Yun residents to take the blame for you? That Tian Kezi should be looking for you to compete. Yunsheng was not in a good mood. She thought about how she had worked so hard and was almost eaten by Bien, but only managed to get a quarter of the purple gold mine. Yi Baiming had pretended to be a pig to eat a tiger and took half of the mine. Her heart was extremely unbalanced. Why are you being so calculative? What is this prince's is yours? Yi Baiming pressed his nose against Yunsheng's neck. Yunsheng's skin was very good and the fragrance on her body was different from the cosmetics of other women. Only the heavens knew that he loved the feeling of holding this little wild cat in his arms. Perhaps it was because the two of them were used to dual cultivating magic, but Yunsheng's resistance to Yi Baiming's intimate actions had lessened. Yunsheng did not understand at first, but when she thought about it again, why did it sound so ambiguous? It sounded like, were you born in the year of the dog? Don't keep scratching my neck. Since what is yours is mine, then take out half of the purple gold mine. In any case, you are a nosy prince and don't need money. Unlike me who has a hunting squad and a medical center, everything is a bottomless pit. Yunsheng felt a tickle on her neck and unhappily pushed Yi Baiming's face away. Yi Baiming had already expected her reaction and nimbly avoided her hand. He pressed her wrist under his armpit and continued to hug Yunsheng tightly. In front of a martial artist, a magician's skills could not be more useless. Yunsheng wailed endlessly. She really wanted to give Yi Baiming a freezing spell and freeze him until his hands and feet were crippled. Unfortunately, she did not dare. To be honest, ever since Yunsheng met Yi Baiming, she had never truly seen through his cultivation. Whether it was a martial artist or a magician, Yi Baiming would never reveal his true abilities. Yunsheng only knew that his strength was very high. After all, just by looking at his soul, Yi Baiming's soul was at least twice as big as hers. Wait a few more days, this prince will naturally give it to you. Don't worry, this time old General Yun will be fine. When Yi Baiming saw Yunsheng's angry appearance, his gray eyes softened. Thank you silently for the tip ***. Chapter 403. Yunsheng had lost a lot of weight recently. Yi Baiming felt a little heartache as he held her in his arms. His little wild cat had been running around and was most worried about the Yun residents. No matter how much Yunsheng disliked the Yun residents, she was still of the Yun residents' bloodline. This was something that couldn't be changed. As long as Yunsheng wasn't willing, he definitely wouldn't let the Yun residents collapse. What are you saying? Could it be that you have full confidence that this competition? No, you don't even know that old General Yun was poisoned. Actually, I went to find Xiao Wenshu yesterday because of this. When Yunsheng heard this, she couldn't help but stop joking around. There was only one person who dared to say that he would give her whatever she wanted in Zhou State, and that was the Zhou State's emperor. However, the Yi Baiming that Yunsheng knew wasn't someone who would easily make promises. Once he opened his mouth, it meant that he had full confidence. It was the amniotic fluid of a magical beast, right? The poison in old General Yun's body, and it was Yun Sangxue who poisoned him, Yi Baiming said slowly. How do you know? You went to the clinic and saw the decoctions? Yun Xing became nervous. Little wildcat, you are very clever but still a little naive. Do you think that you can solve today's matter by yourself? Do you know why Yin Sangxue did that? Because Tang Yu was taken away by someone. The person who took away Tang Yu was the Bloody Hand Tycoon controlled by Xuan Wuji. Yi Baiming's face was unfathomable, as if nothing could be hidden from him. In just one night, Yi Baiming had already found out that Tang Yu was taken away by a group of unknown people a few months ago. Yun Sangxue must have been controlled by others because of Tang Yu. In terms of medical skills, Yun Sheng could be considered the best in Zhou State. She was also very smart and was the calmest woman Yi Baiming had ever met. Sometimes Yi Baiming would even associate Yun Sheng with his mother, Empress Li. Of all the women Yi Baiming had seen in his life, his mother, Empress Li, was the one who left the deepest impression on him. Not only was she unparalleled in beauty, but she was also better at scheming than others. But for a peerless beauty like Empress Li, she had lost to love. For the sake of Zhou State's emperor, a man who didn't love her, her reputation was ruined, and she ended up without a corpse. Every time he thought of this, Yi Baiming couldn't help but feel indignant, and his gray eyes flashed with anger. He turned his head to look at the person in his arms. After learning the reason for Yun Sangshue's betrayal, Yun Sheng fell into deep thought. She didn't notice Yi Baiming sizing her up. Yi Baiming carefully looked at Yun Sheng. From her dark red petal-like lips to her delicate oval face and pitch-black eyes, he didn't miss anything. When Yun Sheng was thinking seriously, she exuded an aura that didn't match her age. That aura made Yi Baiming feel like he couldn't take his eyes off her. Yun Sheng was still young. In terms of appearance, she couldn't be compared to Empress Li, who used to be the most beautiful woman in Zhou State. She didn't know anything about the four arts, but her medical skills and understanding of magic were incomparable to Empress Li's. Today, for example, even though she knew such a big thing, if it were anyone else they would probably have panicked. However, Yun Sheng was able to calm down and think about the whole story. Yi Baiming had a feeling that Yun Sheng was growing at an astonishing speed. As long as she was given enough time, she would transform into a woman who was even more dazzling than his mother. She was Yun Sheng, not Empress Li. And he wasn't the emperor of Zhou State. He would never let her down in this life. When Yi Baiming's spiritual soul entered Yun Sheng's body, he already knew that this little woman was tightly bound to him in the past, present, and future. However, if she were to discover the obstacles in front of them one day, would she still be like today, leaning in his arms and not moving at all? Yi Baiming's heart was filled with thoughts. Yun Sheng was also filled with thoughts. In terms of scheming for benefits, she was indeed not as good as Yi Baiming, who was born in a royal family since he was young. She never thought that Yun Sangxue would be so rebellious. Compared to the father, the son was more important in the end. Night Fox, can you do me a favor? Yun Sheng looked up. She knew that Yi Baiming knew much more than her. She was a typical modern woman. Due to the early death of her parents, she had been taking care of herself since she was young. After coming to the Boundless Land, due to Yun Sanghai's deliberate training, she had always been taking care of herself and never asked others to help her. This was the first time she had asked someone for help. Her show of weakness made Yi Baiming raise his eyebrows. The smile on his face deepened. Yun Sheng asked him for help. Did this mean that she had already opened her heart and started to accept him? Yun Sheng was originally very smart. It was just that because of the environment she was born in, she was not good at scheming. However, after she recognized the environment she was in, she immediately made a decision. Whether it was Shen Wuji, the Dark Prince, or Tian Kezi, did these people really think that she, Yun Sheng, and the entire Yun residence could be bullied? If they had come in the open, Yun Sheng might not have done anything in secret. However, since they had used all kinds of methods, how could she, Yun Sheng, let them play tricks like this? I'm at your disposal. Yi Baiming saw a hint of determination in Yun Sheng's eyes. He knew that the little wild cat had been enlightened. Yun Sheng thought about it again and quickly connected the whole thing together. Tell me the whereabouts of the Bloody Hand Tycoon. Yun Sheng almost gritted her teeth as she said this sentence. Yi Baiming raised his eyebrows. You want to find the Bloody Hand Tycoon? Those who come out to make a living will eventually have to pay. Yun Sheng's eyebrows were filled with a murderous aura. Why should I dirty my hands? If you don't like it, after tomorrow, there will be no more Bloody Hand Tycoon in this world. Yi Baiming pursed his thin lips and held Yun Sheng's hand. The size of a man's and a woman's hands were different. Yi Baiming stroked Yun Sheng's hand. Her hand could be used to save people. As for his hand, since it was already stained with blood, he did not mind staining it with more than 100 lives. If anyone dared to make his woman unhappy, he would make sure that they would not be able to rest in peace. Early in the morning, in a valley located dozens of miles northwest of Zhou State. It was at least half a month's journey from here to Jade Capital. The valley was filled with fog all day long. Once hunters and magical beasts entered the valley, they would not be able to walk out again. No one noticed that there was a magic array set up outside the valley. The grass and trees outside the valley looked very ordinary, but upon closer inspection, one would realize that these were all poisonous plants. The fog was also an illusion created by the magic array. This was the headquarters of the Bloody Hand Tycoon. Chapter 404. Blood Hand's main camp was located in this valley where there were few signs of human habitation. If a skilled magician managed to break through the misty magic formation outside and enter the depths of the valley, he would see many trench-like buildings built in the valley. Tang Yu had been locked up here for the past half a year. Although he was locked up, Tang Yu's life was not bad. At least in the eyes of young Master Tang, this life was 1,000 times better than the life in the Northwest Barracks. He was served by 2 delicate beauties. Every day there was good wine and good meat, not a single thing was lacking. Tang Yu still did not know the origins of these people. He only knew that after being exiled by the military, he had been exposed to the elements all the way to the Northwest Barracks. He completely ignored Yun Ba's painstaking efforts to train him. After wailing and wailing for a few days, he realized that no one regarded him as the little young master of the Yun residence anymore. He completely gave up. He inwardly cursed Xinyu, who had died for no apparent reason. He was also angry at Yun Sheng. Even his grandfather Yun Ba, who had not helped him, was hated by him. One night, Tang Yu went to the toilet in the middle of the night and was knocked on the head. When he woke up, he realized that he had left the Northwest Barracks. At first he was afraid, but when he realized that his life here was 1,000 times better than in the barracks, he felt at ease to live a life of luxury. However, he did not expect that such a good life would suddenly come to an end a few days ago. He roughly knew that the group who had captured him belonged to an organization called the Blood Hand Gang. The people here did not show their faces and were all dressed in red robes. Their skills were very high and there were magicians and warriors among them. If he wanted to escape from these people, the chances of him escaping were 0. Usually, these people were only responsible for providing him with good wine and meat and did not make things difficult for him. However, 3 days ago, a red-robed man suddenly walked in with a fiendish expression. Without saying a word, they cut off Tang Yu's little finger. Tang Yu was so frightened that he fainted. When he woke up, he realized that the beauty was gone and he was locked in a small room. He did not know what had happened and cursed for an entire day, but no one paid him any attention. Around dawn, the door opened. A red-robed man walked in. Behind the red-robed man were 2 delicate beauties. When they saw Tang Yu, they warmly welcomed him. "Yo, what do you want?" Tang Yu did not have the ability to keep these beauties this time. He just wanted to leave this damn place as soon as possible. "Young Master Tang, there's no need to panic. You've been on tenterhooks all this while. But don't worry, you'll be able to leave in a few days." The red-robed man sneered. As long as the competition between Yun Ba and Tian Kezi ended, the Yun residents would lose all standing and reputation. At that time, Tang Yu would no longer have any value. The Bloody Hand Trenches people also promised Yun Sangxue that as long as the competition ended, they would release Tang Yu. A few days? How many days? Who ordered you to capture this young master? Tang Yu's fat face was pale with fright. He was originally a cowardly rat with a brain the size of a mung bean. After being frightened like this, there was only one name left in his mind. "Alright, I know. It must be Yun Sheng, right? You guys are all acting mysterious. You must be the hunters under that wretched girl in disguise." Tang Yu believed that he had a noble status and was quite popular in the Jade Capital. After thinking about it, he could only think of Yun Sheng as his enemy. It must be because Yun Sheng wanted to acknowledge her ancestors and was afraid that he would steal her grandfather Yun Ba's favor. Therefore she ordered people to capture him. A burst of uncontrollable laughter came from above the house. Hearing the commotion, the Bloody Hand Trenches people were shocked. "Who's there?" On the roof, 3 people were standing. The Bloody Hand Trench was an extremely important stronghold of the Grand Emperor city on the boundless continent. Therefore, the valley where their base camp was located was well hidden, and there were layers upon layers of traps outside. The fact that someone was able to sneak in without them noticing shocked the red-robed leader, and he couldn't help but feel a chill in his heart. So there's really someone as stupid as a pig. Tang Yu, oh Tang Yu, if Yun Xing wanted to harm you, you would have already died 1,000 times. The three men descended from the roof. These were three men with different styles. Anyone who saw them would remember them. The one who snickered just now was the man on the right. He had a dignified appearance and always had a kind smile on his face. He held a white jade bone fan in his hand. With such a configuration he was just like a white-robed scholar. The man on the left was like an iron-faced soldier. He was not old, but his tyrannical battle chi was like a sword that had been sharpened for a long time. Once he made a move, it was earth-shattering. As for the man in the middle, the one that the red-robed man couldn't see through the most was the man in the middle. He should be the youngest of the three. He looked to be around 15 or 16 years old, but he was the most good-looking of the three. His pair of slightly upturned red phoenix eyes reflected a cold light in the morning light. He was not like the man on the right who liked to laugh, nor was he as cold as the man on the left. There were no magical waves on his body, nor was there any biting cold battle chi. However, just by standing there he made people feel an unbearable pressure. It's you. Lord Baiming, Senior Brother Cheng, Senior Brother Bu. When Tang Yu saw the three of them, it was as if he had seen his saviors. He shouted loudly for help. His eyes were more like a girl who had seen her sweetheart. How could there be any anticipation? Cheng Bai shuddered and glared at Yi Baiming resentfully. It was all this kid's fault. Early in the morning, before the rooster crowed, he was dragged out of bed by Yi Baiming and thrown into a magical array in a daze. When he woke up, he found himself in Bujiaoxiao in the western region of Zhou State. It would take at least 10 days to travel from Yujing to the western region of Zhou State, even with flying magical beasts. Yi Baiming, on the other hand, used a magical array of unknown attributes to bring him and Bujiaoxiao thousands of miles to the west. When he woke up and asked around, he found out that Yi Baiming was actually looking for Tang Yu. He was really unlucky for 8 lifetimes. Yi Qingbai never had the chance to be a hero saving a damsel in distress. How could he have the chance to save a fatso? F***ck, who's your senior brother? When Qingbai heard Tang Yu's voice, which was even more feminine than a girl's, he felt goosebumps all over his body. A trash who had been kicked out of the dojo half a month after joining dared to call him senior brother. Bloody tycoon? Bu Jiaoxiao frowned unhappily. What he noticed were the people in red who were quickly gathering around him. If he was not wrong, these people were the infamous assassins of the bloody tycoon. However, when did Yi Baiming provoke this group of people, or? Bu Jiaoxiao did not even bother to look at Tang Yu. This matter was related to the residents of Yun. Yi Baiming and the residents of Yun did not have much of a relationship. If there was a relationship, it would be because of Yun Sheng. Chapter 405. Qingbai glanced at Yi Baiming and then looked at Bu Jiaoxiao, roaring sorrowfully, "In this day and age, men are like clothes and women are like hands and feet. Baiming, you are not kind." Qingbai's appearance was clearly a naked accusation. His own woman was still comfortably staying in Jade Capital, yet he had pulled his 2 childhood friends to come to this kind of godforsaken place to fight to the death with someone. Yi Baiming's gray eyes turned and the corner of his mouth curled up with a hint of evilness, instantly making people dumbfounded. At that time, there was only one sentence in Tang Yu's mind: "Oh my God, a man can actually smile so beautifully." Yi Baiming spat out a sentence that was neither painful nor itchy. "Wrong, there is no way to compare. There are 4 brothers and only 1 woman." Qingbai's face instantly became that of a little wife, while Bu Jiaoxiao helplessly shrugged his shoulders. Seeing the 3 of them singing the same tune and not putting the famous Blood Hand Tycoon in their eyes, the red-robed man was so angry that his teeth were about to shatter. "What's the point of saying so much? You are Zhou State's Baiming King, and you are Wuji's 3 talents that recently rose to prominence from Wushuan Limitless School?" The most famous people on the continent were Wuji's 5 paragons, the 5 peerless geniuses of the 5 great countries. Wuji's 5 paragons had been famous for a long time, but in the past 2 years the hottest newcomers in Zhou State were Wuji's 3 talents. If Wuji's 5 paragons were said to be famous because of their genius and illustrious background, then Wuji's 3 talents were famous for killing blood cloud beasts. However, because they were only moving around in Zhou State, the fame of Wuji's 3 talents was only spread in a small area. Blood Hand Tycoon had only heard of their reputation, but had never truly fought with them before. Seeing them today, he only felt that the 3 of them had first-class appearances, but in terms of strength they were only SOSO. Since they came from Wushuan Limitless School, their strength naturally wouldn't be weak, but no matter what, they were just a group of teenage martial artists, and their cultivations were at most martial marquee. These assassins of the Blood Hand Trench, perhaps their martial realm cultivation could not compare to these three, but they all lived their lives licking blood from the edge of the blade. When it came to a real fight, they believed that they would not lose to these three youngsters who looked good but were not of any use. It was also the red-robed man who had let down his guard. He had overlooked one thing. If the three people in front of him were really just martial arts practitioners, how could they have rushed here from the Jade capital, which was thousands of miles away? Brothers, capture the leader first. Capture Zhou State's Baiming King first. The red-robed leader was able to become the leader of the Bloody Hand Trench. Naturally, he had some skills. With a single glance, he recognized Bu Jiuxiao as the most powerful of Wuji's three prodigies, followed by Cheng Bai and Yi Baiming. However, Yi Baiming was the leader of the three, so he made a prompt decision to capture Yi Baiming first. Within the Blood Hand Trench's main camp, there were still more than 200 people. More than 200 red-robed people, under the command of their leader, rushed over like a dense swarm of locusts. Tang Yu was so scared that she could not move. She hid to the side. Yi Baiming and the other two who were surrounded in the middle, did not react at all. What are you waiting for? Let them see that the title of Wuji's three prodigies is not for nothing. Qingbai laughed. The three stood in a row, but no one was in a hurry to make a move. The three of them were about the same age and height, but at this moment, the three bursts of Duki that erupted from their bodies were completely different. The three bursts of Duki burst forth in an instant, like three peerless swords being unsheathed together. The Do Qi collided with each other like a flood. The entire valley seemed to have experienced a small-scale earthquake. Tang Yu, who was hiding to the side, only heard a series of crackling sounds. It was as if a string of firecrackers had suddenly been lit on the quiet street on New Year's Eve. However, the source of the firecrackers came from the joints of the three men in front of her. It was the sound of the exploding Duki flowing in all directions. It was September and it was around sunrise. The weather was cool, but the three men were drenched in an instant. That was sweat. No, that was not sweat. Red liquid flowed down from the three men's skin. The red-robed men at the side looked at each other. The red-robed leader's face changed in shock. That was not sweat, that was beast blood. The three men had entered the beast blood frenzy state at the same time. Red beastly blood and sweat flowed out from the three men's bodies. The clothes on their upper bodies were torn apart. Like small green pythons, veins popped out. Their muscles bulged, emitting a terrifying aura. In just a moment, the three men who were originally 1.8 meters tall had undergone a terrifying transformation. Their height suddenly increased by 20 to 30 centimeters. Each of them looked like a small giant at least 2 meters tall. Their facial features had also changed. Among them, Yi Baiming's beast blood frenzy state was the most shocking. A black gas circled around his body. His naked upper body was covered with a layer of strange black scales. He roared loudly like a spring thunder. When the sound fell into the ears of the assassins of the Bloody Hand Trench, their eardrums buzzed. Some of the assassins with weaker cultivation actually bled from their ears, nose and mouth under the roar. They fell to the ground instantly, their heart meridians broken on the spot. With a roar, he could break people's heart meridians. With such cultivation, he was definitely not a martial marquis. Could it be? Only then did the red-robed man know that the Lord Baiming he looked down on was actually a man. Zhou State, Yujing City, there was not only one. As if he had foreseen the result of the competition a few days later, the red-robed man only had one thought left. He had to escape. He had to tell the young city lord that the most terrifying person in Zhou State was not Yinba. However, in the next moment he found that he could not move his hands and feet. Like a ghost, Yi Baiming killed his way out of the heavy encirclement. In an instant he was in front of him. His hands covered with black scales grabbed the red-robed man's hands and feet. The red-robed man only felt that his limbs were making cracking sounds. He did not even have time to cry out. His body was as strong as a martial marquis. Even under the force of 1,000 kilograms, his body would not be damaged in the slightest. However, Yi Baiming's tyrannical strength tore his body into two halves. Red blood that was even redder than the red-robed man instantly dyed Yi Baiming's eyes red. Perhaps stimulated by the smell of blood, Yi Baiming's mind was scarlet. Countless broken limbs, a rain of blood and minced flesh. The scene in the valley was too horrible to look at. Cheng Bai and Bu Jiuxiao had finished off more than half of the assassins of the Bloody Hand Trench. When they stopped, they found that Yi Baiming was strange. Not good. Jiuxiao Baiming seems to be out of control. Cheng Bai looked at the corpses around them and then looked at Yi Baiming's crazy killing method. His heart trembled slightly. Chapter 406. According to their agreement, once they entered the Blood Hand Trench's camp, they would quickly enter the Beast Blood Frenzy state and end the battle quickly. After all, there were more important things waiting for them in the Jade Capital. They had seen Yi Baiming enter a frenzied state after entering the Beast Blood Frenzy state. Previously, when the three of them were killing Blood Cloud beasts, they had encountered commander-grade demonic beasts that were even more dangerous than the Blood Hand Trench. At that time, Qing Bai and Bu Jiuxiao had encountered danger. It was Yi Baiming who entered the Beast Blood Frenzy state at the last moment that saved the two of them. It was only then that the two of them knew that Yi Baiming could enter the Beast Blood Frenzy state on his own even before the real Beast Blood fusion. Furthermore, Yi Baiming's Beast Blood Frenzy state was different from that of ordinary warriors. Normally, after entering the Beast Blood Frenzy state, the person would be weakened for half a month or even 3 months depending on their cultivation. However, Yi Baiming was different. Every time he entered the Beast Blood Frenzy state, he would be able to recover quickly and would be no different from his normal state. Furthermore, his strength in the Beast Blood Frenzy state was terrifying. He could even reach the strength of a martial sage. However, correspondingly, Yi Baiming's personality would also change greatly. He would be like a demonic beast that was filled with hostility and was obsessed with killing. Previously, after Yun Sheng had really performed the Beast Blood fusion on Yi Baiming 3 times, Yi Baiming's strength seemed to have become even more terrifying. It seemed that when Yun Sheng's medical skills fused with Yi Baiming's Beast Blood fusion, it also stimulated the most terrifying power in his body. At this thought, Qing Bai and Bu Jiuxiao were secretly shocked. Think of a way to control Baiming, otherwise. Bu Jiuxiao also looked anxious. The Blood Hand Trench's camp could be said to have been cleared out by them. However, Yi Baiming did not seem to have any intention of stopping. Help! Save me! Lord Baiming, I'm Tang Yu. I'm not a member of the Bloody Hand Tycoon. As he spoke, Yi Baiming picked Tang Yu up. Tang Yu's 200 kilograms of fat was like a defenseless chicken in his hands. Tang Yu was also scared out of his wits by Yi Baiming's crazed murderous look. He was choked by the neck and his face was the color of an eggplant. It looked like he was about to be choked to death. When Cheng and Bu saw this, they hurriedly stepped forward and held Yi Baiming from both sides. They were here to save people. Not to mention that the Bloody Hand Tycoon didn't kill Tang Yu. Tang Yu was strangled to death by Yi Baiming in the end. However, Yi Baiming did not care about this. His eyes were bloodshot from killing. The Beast Blood Frenzy had filled his entire body with a ruthless aura. His pair of gray eyes were like rubies, emitting a bewitching light. His 10 fingers were like iron rods that kept tightening. Cheng and Bu were both martial marquee experts, but no matter how they tried to persuade or pull Yi Baiming's body, he did not move an inch. Seeing that Tang Yu's limbs were getting weaker and weaker and his eyes were rolling back, Qing Bai shouted anxiously, "Baiming, calm down. He's Tang Yu, Yun Sheng's cousin." Who? Yi Baiming, who had entered a frenzied state, had entered a state where all 6 of his senses had disappeared. His eyes were covered with a layer of red. He could not hear Qing Bai's words. But just as he was in a daze, he heard a name. Yun Sheng. Yun Sheng's cousin. It was as if a bright light had suddenly appeared in the darkest night. A part of his heart softened. Yi Baiming's hand loosened. Tang Yu fell to the ground, gasping for breath, his fat jiggling like rice bran. It was too frightening. He had almost died. Yi Baiming was also gasping for breath. After regaining consciousness, the strange scales on his body immediately disappeared, and his body quickly returned to its original appearance. The redness at the bottom of his eyes also dissipated. He looked at the horrifying corpses on the ground, his eyes calm as if the massacre had nothing to do with him. Just now, in the instant that he regained consciousness, Yi Baiming understood that his strength had broken through again. "Baiming, you're finally awake. You scared us to death." Cheng Bai wiped away the cold sweat on his forehead, and exchanged a look with Bu Jiuxiao. Just now, if he had not said Yun Sheng's name in a moment of desperation, most likely, such a Yi Baiming would be too frightening. Cheng Bai and Bu Jiuxiao already understood that Yun Sheng was probably the only bottom line for Yi Baiming to maintain his consciousness. Just based on this point, they silently agreed that Yun Sheng was Yi Baiming's woman. "Everyone in the Bloody Hand Tycoon's camp has been killed. What should we do next? And this kid, what do you plan to do with him?" Cheng Bai looked at Tang Yu bitterly. This kid could not be killed. But if they did not kill him and brought him back to the Jade Capital, and if Yi Baiming's secret was exposed, the consequences would be, Tang Yu, I won't kill you. I promised her that I would bring you back. Yi Baiming looked down at Tang Yu. When Tang Yu met Yi Baiming's gaze, he shuddered. The Lord Baiming in front of him was like the god of the underworld from hell. He was handsome, bloodthirsty, and could take a person's life with just a breath. Lord Baiming, I won't say anything. I swear that if I reveal even a little bit of the secret, my intestines will be pierced and I will die a horrible death. Tang Yu was scared out of his wits. He knelt on the ground mechanically and kowtowed. Bring him back. Also, cut off the heads of everyone here and bring them back. I want to give a big gift to the young city lord of Grand Emperor City and the Dark Crown Prince. Since they had come to Zhou State, he, as the Zhou State's Lord Baiming, would take the place of the weak Zhou State Emperor and entertain them properly. Only half an hour passed. There was still a faint light on the horizon. The Bloody Hand Tycoon, an organization that was once notorious on the boundless continent, had disappeared. On the same morning there was another person who was restless. Yun Sangxue had already gotten up. She had not slept at all last night. That day at the birthday banquet, when Tian Kezi challenged her father to a duel, Yun Sangxue felt as if she had been struck by lightning. For a moment she even lost her ability to think. She finally understood that she had been secretly used by the Grand Emperor City and the later Qin State. At this moment she was filled with regret. Yun Sangxue was not a fool. She understood the principle of sharing glory and loss together. Originally she had poisoned her father because of her only son, Tang Yu. However, she had thought that the other party only wanted to slowly exhaust Yun Ba's life. After a few years, Yun Ba would die naturally like he had died of old age. At that time she could rightfully inherit the Yun residence's property. Who knew that the Dark Crown Prince of the later Qin State and the Martial Saint of the later Qin State, Tian Kezi, would suddenly appear at the birthday banquet. Only then did Yun Sangxue understand that those people not only wanted to frame Yun Ba, but they also wanted to viciously ruin the reputation of the entire Yun residence. Chapter 407. Yun Sangxue knew very well that if the Yun residence collapsed, even if Yu Er returned, the mother and daughter would be stray dogs. Their lives would be 1,000 times harder than they were now. In these 3 days Yun Sangxue often wanted to confess to her father, Yun Ba. She still had a glimmer of hope in her heart. Her father doted on her the most. If she said that she was forced, perhaps there would still be some leeway. But that person from the Bloody Hand Tycoon refused to leave. That night, he had appeared in her room without anyone noticing. He had even brought along one of Tang Yu's fingers. Third Miss Yun, you are a smart person. You should know that if you speak carelessly, young Master Tang will pay with his life. Yun Sangxue had been so frightened that her face had drained of color. She had dismissed the idea of confessing. No, father will definitely lose the competition in a few days. Once father loses, the Yun residence will collapse. I can't just sit here and wait for death. I must find you, Yun Sangshua's head was splitting from thinking. It was only at dawn that she abruptly stood up. She searched the room for a while and found a few purple gold cards and some jewelry. She wanted to take all the valuable things and sneak out of the mansion. These aren't enough. There are also the treasures and medicinal herbs in the Yun residence's storehouse. Only those can ensure that you, and I will not have to worry about food and clothing for the rest of our lives. Yun Sangshue hurriedly took out the key to the storehouse and secretly walked towards it alone. It was still early. Because Yun Ba was going to compete, the Yun residence was very quiet these days. This was to ensure that Yun Ba was in his best condition. Outside the storehouse there were 2 guards standing guard. They found it strange that Yun Sangshue had come to the storehouse so early in the morning. Third Miss, you want to enter the storehouse so early in the morning? The guards found it strange. They had also noticed that the third Miss's complexion wasn't very good. Father will be competing in a few days. I want to take some medicinal herbs to nourish his body. Yun Sangshue forced a smile. The 2 guards didn't ask any more questions. They opened the door to the storehouse and walked in. The Yun residence's storehouse was the place with the most treasures in the entire residence. The various treasures and precious medicinal herbs that the Yun residence had left behind after many years of operation were all hidden here. Because Yun Sangshue had been the steward of the residence all these years, Yun Ba had given the key to the storehouse to Yun Sangshue. The other key to the storehouse was in Uncle Yun's hands. Yun Sangshue took out 2 storage rings. She gritted her teeth and stuffed all the precious herbs in the storeroom and a few purple gold cards into it. In a short while the warehouse was almost emptied. Almost 99% of the Yun residence's savings had already landed in Yun Sangshue's hands. Father, don't blame me for being ruthless. Anyway, second brother has become a hunter and eldest brother has betrayed the Yun residence for a woman. These family assets will belong to me and you, sooner or later. Yun Sangshue turned to leave after ransacking the storehouse. Unexpectedly, as soon as he left, he saw Yun Sheng and Uncle Yun standing outside the storehouse. Third Miss. So little Miss was right. You really harmed Master. If Uncle Yun hadn't seen it with his own eyes, he wouldn't have believed that the third Miss, who was the old master's favorite, would actually do such a thing. Early this morning, Yun Sheng quietly entered the residence and found Uncle Yun. Yun Sheng had also thought about it. She still had to tell Yun Ba about the magical beast amniotic fluid, but she couldn't tell him directly. After all, there had always been a grudge between her and Yun Ba. If she rashly said that Yun Sangshue was the one who put the poison in, Yun Ba would probably give her a good scolding. After thinking it over, Yun Sheng felt that Uncle Yun was the most suitable person. When Uncle Yun heard it, he didn't believe it at first, so Yun Sheng told him to directly question Yun Sangshue. Unexpectedly, Yun Sangshue was so disappointing that she actually planned to escape. Moreover, she was prepared to take away all of the Yun residence's assets to escape punishment. This way, Uncle Yun completely believed Yun Sheng's words. Uncle Yun? Yun Song, you are just a servant. What right do you have to question me? Get out of the way. Yun Sangshue's expression was ugly. When she saw Yun Sheng appear, she already knew that the matter of her poisoning had most likely been exposed. If they found Yun Ba, she really wouldn't be able to explain herself. Third Miss, how can you treat Master like this? If he knew, how sad would he be? If you have any difficulties, feel free to tell Master. Uncle Yun was heartbroken. Even now, he still believed that Yun Sangshue must have some difficulties that she had no choice but to do. Difficulties? Aha, would he still care about my difficulties? Yun Sangshue simply smashed the pot to pieces. She stared maliciously at Yun Sheng. Ever since this wretched girl came back, everything has changed. Father used to dote on you, so much, but now. You and I were humiliated by this little wretch, but he was indifferent. That's fine, but you, is his only grandson. He has raised her in the Yun residence for more than 10 years. No matter what, their relationship should be better than that wretch who was chased out of the house. In the end, Yu was exiled, but he was indifferent. Yun Sangshue's words were malicious. She believed that her actions today were all because of Yun Sheng. That day, when her father scolded her and told her to get out of the Yun residence, she already understood that in her father's heart, she couldn't compare to Yun Sheng. When her eldest brother was still around, it was the same. Now that her eldest brother was gone, another Yun Sheng had appeared. Third Miss, you've misunderstood Master. Uncle Yun still wanted to explain. He put in so much effort for the little young Master. Although being exiled to the northwest is a bit difficult, Master's subordinates are there. He ordered people to take care of the little young Master along the way. Yun Sangshue's heart ached and she smiled bitterly. Take care? If he really took care of him, how could you, have fallen into the hands of the Bloody Hand Tycoon? He doesn't care about me, his daughter, or his grandson. Uncle Yun, no need to say any more. If you didn't provoke the Bloody Hand Tycoon, how could so many things have happened? You only have yourself to blame. I advise you to quickly go to old General Yun to ask for forgiveness and leave behind the Yun residence's belongings. Yun Sheng originally wanted to personally rush to the Bloody Hand Tycoon's headquarters. Although she didn't like Tang Yu couldn't die now. However, Yi Baiming stopped her. Yi Baiming said that he would save Tang Yu. After saying that, the night fox disappeared. Yun Sheng also didn't know what Tang Yu's current situation was. The Bloody Hand Tycoon belonged to Grand Emperor City and was definitely not weak. Yun Sheng wasn't worried. Yi Baiming's strength was unfathomable. She just didn't know when he would be able to return to the Jade Capital. Little slut, what right do you have to question me? Yun Sangshue raised her eyebrows when she heard that. Her beautiful eyes were filled with killing intent. A wave of fighting aura rose around her body and she struck her palm towards Yun Sheng's face. That palm carried a force of 500 kilograms. If it landed, it would be enough to shatter a huge rock. She hated and was angry at Yun Sheng. She hated her for stealing her position in the Yun residence and was angry at her for causing her and Yu to have no place to stay. She used a killing move the moment she attacked. Third Miss. You can't. Uncle Yun turned pale with fright. Thank you Minion, Fish and Tin for your tips. Thank you everyone for your votes. Chapter 408. Yun Sheng was already prepared. With a wave of her magic scepter, a small lightning bolt immediately appeared in the sky, rumbling loudly. She had fought with Yun Sangxue before, but after 3 days Yun Sangxue was still the same Yun Sangxue, while Yun Sheng was no longer the same Yun Sheng. Yun Sangxue was a martial honor, while Yun Sheng was a master magician. In close combat Yun Sangxue was a martial artist, so she had the advantage. However, after Yun Sheng obtained the second demon charm soul stone, her attacks had a paralyzing effect. Lightning flash struck Yun Sangshue's hand, and Yun Sangxue only felt numbness all over her body. Immediately after, a majestic water-type magic element transformed into a water python, opening its mouth towards her. Yun Sangxue felt her entire body go numb. She had already been firmly bound by Yun Sheng's water bind. Yun Sheng kicked her and found several purple gold cards and 2 storage rings on her body. "Little bitch, how dare you treat me like this? You'll definitely die a horrible death." Yun Sangxue cursed. Uncle Yun had a difficult expression. "Take her to old General Yun," Yun Sheng said coldly. Early in the same morning, Xian Wuji and the Dark Crown Prince were both staying in the residence of the later Qin state in Zhou state. The day of the martial sages of the 2 states was getting closer and closer. The 2 of them were confident of victory. Suddenly, a guard came to reporting to Your Highness, Martial Sage. This morning a box was sent to the door. It was said to be for Your Highness, Martial Sage and young city lord. A gift? A gift came early in the morning? The Dark Crown Prince and the others were astonished. Over the past few days, the Great Zhou Emperor did not dare to neglect the few of them in the Great Zhou Empire. He treated them very well, but secretly he was closely monitoring every movement in the envoy residence. Who would send a gift at this time? The person who sent the gift was an ordinary-looking servant. After giving the gift he left. Several guards carried a box in. The gift was a square box. It looked like an ordinary box used to transport goods on the continent. The outside was made of willow wood and high-quality copper leather. There were 2 heavy iron locks on the lock. It was so tight that no one could see what was inside. "Open it." Dark Prince Duguxiu frowned. Tian Kz and the others were on high alert, afraid that there were hidden weapons in the box. Clack. The bodyguard swung his saber and cut off the lock. There was a dull sound of the box being opened. A hot, fishy smell assaulted their nostrils. Several heads rolled out of the box. The blood on it had yet to solidify. There were more than 200 human heads in the chest. Even though the Dark Crown Prince and Tian Kz were used to killing, their expressions couldn't help but change slightly. Of all the people present, the one who was most shocked was Xian Wuji. He recognized the heads as belonging to one of his subordinates, the Blood Hand Tycoon. How could that be? Who was it? Who the hell sent this box here? Xian Wuji's expression was ferocious. More than 200 people were killed. This meant that the Blood Hand Tycoon's headquarters had been massacred. Last night, he had contacted the leader of the red-robed men. At that time there were no signs. How could the forces that Grand Emperor City had painstakingly cultivated for many years be wiped out overnight? And he, the young city lord, was completely in the dark. "Young city lord, are these people your subordinates?" Later Qin Crown Prince Duguxiu quickly retracted his surprised expression. It was obvious that this person sent this box to provoke them. Looking at the expressions on the faces of the human heads, they all died with their eyes bulging out of their sockets. It was obvious that they had died in fear. To be able to make a group of assassins who killed without batting an eyelid reveal such an expression, what kind of terrifying existence was the murderer? Was there such a ruthless character in Zhou State? The Dark Crown Prince was like a cat that smelled blood. Unlike Xian Wuji, he was not angered by the other party. Instead, the blood in his body was like boiling water, boiling endlessly. Only such a ruthless character was worthy of being Duguxiu's opponent. Unfortunately, that servant came and went without a trace. He did not leave behind any clues. It must be the Yun residence. Xian Wuji had not been in the Jade capital for long. Grand Emperor City was also a hidden city. Other than the Yun residence, he did not have any other enmity in the Jade capital. The relationship between the Blood Hand Tycoon and Grand Emperor City was even rarer. It's not the Yun residence. Yun Ba and Yun Songlong are pedantic and righteous people. They would not be so ruthless. The Dark Crown Prince's gaze darkened as he thought of Yun Sheng. However, that little girl did not seem to have the ability to travel between the Northwest and the Jade capital in one night. But Tang Yu's head is not here. That person must have saved Tang Yu. Without Tang Yu, that woman Yun Sangxue will definitely fly into a rage out of humiliation. She might even tell the Yun residents about us. If Yun Ba knows the truth, he might regret the match. At that time, wouldn't our many days of preparation be in vain? Xian Wuji was furious. The box had already been transported away, but the smell of blood lingered for a long time. The Dark Crown Prince and Tian Kezi were used to this smell, but Xian Wuji's expression was not good. After this battle, the Blood Hand Tycoon had probably been uprooted. He left the Grand Emperor city this time and caused the city to suffer such a great loss. He would probably be punished by his father when he returned to the city. All of this was because of the Yun residents in Yun Songlong. No, even if someone like Yun Ba knew that he was poisoned, he would not go back on his word. We will just sit and wait for the match in a few days. Tian Kezi was unconcerned. Tian Kezi's guess was right on one point. Yun Ba was a stubborn stone in a latrine pit. He was smelly and stubborn. The current situation in the Yun residence proved this point. Under Yun Sheng's persuasion, Uncle Yun finally decided to tell Yun Ba about the matter. He ordered someone to call for Yun Songlong and escorted Yun Sangxue to Yun Ba. Yun Sangxue's battered and exhausted appearance, as well as his furious expression that was about to spit fire, deeply hurt Yun Ba. This old man, who had never been afraid even when facing hundreds of thousands of enemy troops on the battlefield, instantly aged a lot when he heard the entire story from Uncle Yun. He painfully closed his eyes, the expression in his eyes unclear. I will leave first. Yun Xing knew that this was a family matter of the Yun residence. With her current status, it was not suitable for her to stay here. You stay. Since you were the one who exposed this matter, it is impossible for you to stay out of it. Yun Xing, you are a member of the Yun residence and my granddaughter. You will never be able to escape responsibility for the matters of the Yun residence. The one who spoke was Yun Ba. He suddenly opened his eyes. When he opened his eyes again, he had already regained his composure. He knew very well that the Yun residence was now riddled with holes. Yun Sangshue's betrayal was the last straw that crushed the Yun residence. Chapter 409. Yun Ba's heart was filled with mixed feelings. He was angry at his own daughter for failing to live up to his expectations and hated the people of Grand Emperor City for being the mastermind behind the scenes. However, he was also angry that he had been kept in the dark about this matter and it was actually a silly girl like Yun Sheng who had discovered it. The most infuriating thing was that this silly girl was clearly concerned about the Yun residence and him, but she was stubborn and still refused to acknowledge him as her grandfather. To put it bluntly, he might not have many days left in his old bones, but this girl still refused to call him grandfather. Tang Yu's whereabouts were unknown, and if something really happened to him, he wouldn't even have a grandchild to wear mourning clothes with. Just thinking of this caused Yun Ba's stubborn temper to flare up again. Old General, this is your Yun residence's internal affairs. As an outsider, it's not appropriate for me to interfere. Yun Sheng was very dissatisfied with Yun Ba's forceful attitude. Back then he must have used the same tone to force her parents to scram out of the Yun residence. Outsider. Outsider my ass. You are my granddaughter, your surname is Yun, and your father is Yun Songhai. You have to acknowledge your ancestors and return to your family. Yun Ba jumped up, his old face pulling a long face. He jumped in front of Yun Sheng looking like he was jumping up and down. The scene became comical all of a sudden. Yun Sheng smiled coldly. But my mother is Hu Jiuxing, the woman you don't acknowledge. If you want me to acknowledge my ancestors and return to my family, then bring my mother's memorial tablet into the Yun residence's ancestral hall. This woman once said that if my father and I want to return to the Yun residence, we must first kowtow 3 times and disassociate ourselves from my mother. If you want me to acknowledge my ancestors and return to my family, then you must acknowledge my mother's identity and let this woman kneel 3 times and kowtow 9 times in front of my mother's memorial tablet as an apology. Yun Sheng was rarely so agitated, but she still remembered how Yun Sangxue had blocked her outside the Yun residence and insulted her, her father, and her mother whom she had never met. Out of anger, Yun Sheng clenched the beast language ring in her hand tightly. That was the only thing Hu Jiuxing had left for her. When Yun Sangxue heard this, he cursed loudly, "Little bitch! You think you're worthy? You're the same as your mother. Both of you have filthy blood that the world can't tolerate." Pa! There was a loud bang. Yun Sangxue fell to the ground in shock, and the words that were about to come out of her mouth stopped in shock. She opened her eyes wide in disbelief, as if she had seen the most inconceivable thing in the world. Yun Ba raised a trembling hand. Uncle Yun and Yun Songlong were also stunned. Father, you hit me. You hit me for this little slut. Yun Songshua seemed to have lost his mind. Yun Ba had never been as furious as he was today. He treated his two sons very harshly, but towards Yun Songshua, because she was the family's only daughter and her appearance was very similar to the late Madame Yun, Yun Ba doted on her very much. This was the first time Yun Songshua had been hit by Yun Ba since she was born. Uncle Yun, from today onwards, Yun Songshua has nothing to do with the Yun residence. Take her back to her room and take her clothes. You can't take anything else with you. If she comes to the Yun residence to cause a ruckus, throw her out. Yun Ba's voice trembled, and it was unknown whether it was because of grief or fear. He waved his hand, unwilling to look at Yun Songshua again. Father, you can't throw me out. Yun Songshua was in a daze. She must have been possessed just now. She actually brought up that matter carelessly. When her eldest brother had left the Yun residence that year, her father had warned her not to mention her sister-in-law in front of outsiders at any time. But today she had made an exception. Yun Sheng was also astonished. Although she didn't hear what Yun Songshua wanted to say, it seemed that Yun Songshua was insulting her and her mother. The filthy blood that the world couldn't tolerate? Could it be that there was something special about her mother's background? Uncle Yun sighed and helped Yun Songshua up, softly persuading her. Third miss, you've really made a mistake this time. You should leave. Master and the Yun residents have already suffered because of you. Yun Songshua didn't struggle anymore. She took a few steps, then suddenly remembered something and pounced on Yun Sheng. Since you know the truth, you must know Yu's whereabouts. It's all my fault. You can't hurt Yu. Yun Ba's slap just now had woken Yun Songshua up. Previously she only knew to blame Yun Sheng, but after thinking about it, since Yun Sheng could find out the origin of the poison, she must know the whereabouts of her precious son. She had nothing left now except for her son Tang Yu. Yun Sheng cast a glance at Yun Ba. The old man's lips moved slightly as if he wanted to say something. Blood was thicker than water. No matter how mischievous Tang Yu was, he was still Yun Ba's grandson. Earlier Yi Baiming had said that he would bring Tang Yu back safe and sound by noon at the latest. She had also said that if Yi Baiming found Tang Yu, he should settle him outside the city. After all, Tang Yu was still a criminal in name and shouldn't appear in the Jade capital. If you want to know Tang Yu's whereabouts, tell me the method and location of the meeting between you and the Bloody Hand Tycoon. Even though Yi Baiming had gone to the Bloody Hand Tycoon's headquarters, Yun Sheng believed that the Bloody Hand Tycoon had contacts in the Jade capital. Perhaps she could use this point to dig out Shen Wuji. In the entire matter, the most despicable person was that shameless young city lord of the Grand Emperor city. Yun Songshua hesitated, but in the end she couldn't resist her impatient heart. She gave Yun Sheng the method to contact the red-robed man, the secret signal to meet, and the remaining amniotic fluid poison of the demonic beasts. Only then did Yun Sheng reveal Tang Yu's whereabouts. Yun Songshua didn't thank her and turned to leave. When she reached the door, Yun Ba opened his mouth. Yun Songshua, you're on your own. Watch your mouth. If I hear anything about Yun Sheng and her son, don't blame me for not remembering our father-daughter relationship. After Uncle Yun left with Yun Songshua, the three members of the Yun family stood in the main hall, no one saying a word. Yun Sheng was still muttering in her heart. She looked at Yun Songlong, who didn't have any reaction. It seemed that second uncle didn't know about this matter either. Yun Ba also didn't ask Yun Sheng to acknowledge her ancestors. For a moment, both grandfather and grandson were in a deadlock, not saying anything. Yun Songlong had also rushed over. In a day he learned of his sister's betrayal and saw his father lose his composure. His mind was also filled with a myriad of thoughts. After a long time he said, Father, since we've already found out that you've been poisoned and it's a strange poison, and no one in Zhou State can cure it for the time being, why don't we report this matter to the Emperor and cancel the competition in a few days? Yun Songshua's grave mistake had already been made, and there was no antidote. Under such circumstances, if Yun Ba were to compete with someone else, he would undoubtedly lose. Cancel? Why should I cancel? If I cancel, the entire continent will laugh at me and Zhou State will lose those purple gold ores. This old man wants to fight this battle. Don't try to persuade me. Yun Ba was in a terrible mood, but his temper was even worse. He refused to give up on this competition no matter what. Father. Yun Songlong wanted to persuade him again. Say no more. This old man has already made up his mind. I'm going into seclusion for the next 2 days. If there's nothing important, don't disturb me. Yun Ba waved his hand impatiently. He didn't want Yun Songlong to say any more. After he finished speaking, he went to the training room. Chapter 410. Yun Songlong looked troubled. Then, he glanced at Yun Sheng and saw that the little girl was deep in thought. He didn't know what she was thinking about. Sheng, it's all thanks to you this time. Are you still thinking about what third sister said? Don't take it to heart. She has been jealous of eldest brother since she was young and doesn't like your mother very much. Don't take her words to heart, Yun Songlong comforted. Second uncle, have you ever seen my mother? Why is old General Yun so displeased with her? Although Yun Sheng had never seen Hu Jiuxing, she had seen a memory fragment that Hu Jiuxing had left in the beast language ring when she received it. In the memory fragment, Hu Jiuxing's face was incomparably beautiful and her voice was gentle. She was a peerless woman. How could such a person attract old General Yun's disgust? Could it be that mother had done something unforgivable? Or was her identity very special? Yun Sheng and Yun Ba had interacted for a while. Although she didn't like old General Yun's temperament that was easily ignited, she knew that this grandfather of hers wasn't a bad person. On the contrary, Yun Ba abhorred evil. His biggest flaw was that he cared a lot about his reputation and had a fiery temper. If Hu Jiuxing attracted his disgust, she must have violated some of his taboos. Sheng, second uncle has never seen your mother. Your father is always on the move. When he brought your mother to the Yun residence for the new year, it happened that there was a riot at the borders and I was still guarding the south. But third sister should have interacted with your mother for a while. Yun Songlong pondered for a moment. That's right, you can also ask Uncle Yun. He has been by father's side all year round and should know something. Yun Sheng nodded. Sheng, you asked about the red-robed men's whereabouts just now. Are you planning to? Yun Songlong didn't want Yun Sheng to be in danger. Second uncle, I'm afraid you don't know that the mastermind behind the so-called red-robed men of the Bloody Hand Tycoon is most likely Dihong City. Don't you want to take advantage of this opportunity to take revenge? Yun Sheng revealed a sinister smile. Yun Ba was meditating in the training room. He circulated the Do Qi in his body and found that the Do Qi accumulated in his body was much less than before. What that little girl said was true. With his skills, he was afraid that he would not be able to compete with Tian KZ in the competition a few days later. Zhang Xue had actually tried to kill him. Yun Ba's aura was unstable, so he simply stopped meditating. Master, everything has been settled. Uncle Yun walked in quietly. Little young master has been sent back. This time it's all thanks to little Mississippi. That little girl's methods are brilliant. It's only been a few days and even the dignified Bloody Hand Tycoon has been uprooted by her. Tang Yu, that disappointment, is she alright? Yun Ba also looked a little unconvinced. He hadn't expected that he couldn't even keep an eye on Tang Yu in his own territory in the northwest. This had given the Bloody Hand Tycoon and the later Qin people an opportunity to take advantage of. They're fine. They're just a little dispirited and listless. This old servant has already found a residence outside the city and settled them down. Uncle Yun also knew that Yun Ba had truly been angered this time. Especially since Yun Sangxue had actually almost exposed the little Miss's identity at the very end. That little girl has a temperament that's prone to causing trouble. Sangshue's words must have aroused her suspicions. If she comes to ask you in the next few days, you definitely can't tell her what happened back then. Back then, if Zhang hadn't accidentally overheard my conversation with Zhang Hai, things wouldn't have gotten to this point today. Yun Ba looked very dejected. But Master, little Miss is a clear-minded person. Her current identity isn't simple either, and she already has several forces by her side that can protect her. She will know the truth sooner or later. Uncle Yun also asked Tang Yu a few questions as he escorted Yun Sangxue and his daughter. He wanted to know who had rescued him. However, the little young master, who had always been a blabbermouth, gritted his teeth this time. Even when Third Miss asked, he didn't say a word. Looking at him, the other party seemed to be a very powerful person. It's precisely because she's gradually building up her own forces and has a tough personality that I'm worried. If she finds out one day that her mother didn't die at all, and that the poison in Sanghai's body was caused by, do you think with her personality she'll just let it go? Yun Ba was the martial saint of Zhou State and he feared nothing. However, every time he spoke of the force that had forced his eldest son to abandon the family, and the force behind it, he couldn't help but change his expression. The darkness of this mainland was only the tip of the iceberg. Although the current Yun Sheng was exceptionally talented, she wasn't strong enough to defy the heavens. He couldn't let his granddaughter take any risks. Yun Song, don't forget that Empress Li was secretly imprisoned because of that incident and ended up in such a miserable state. Even if we don't consider that terrifying force, we still have to consider the pressure from the imperial family. Yun Ba was also worried about this point. Master, this old servant understands. I definitely won't tell little miss about those things. Uncle Yun sighed. Master was right. Eldest young master was powerful enough back then. Eldest young master Yun Songhai was very talented. A large part of Little Miss' talent was inherited from eldest young master. Yun Songhai was only in his 20s back then and was already a sky sorcerer. However, in the face of that terrifying force, he still ended up in his current state. Little Miss was exceptionally talented, but she was still far from eldest young master's sky sorcerer cultivation. Yun Ba and Uncle Yun had already made up their minds. Even if Yun Xing didn't want to return to the family, they would still protect her. In the Jade capital, they couldn't let anyone touch Little Mississippi. Just as Yun Ba had predicted, Yun Xing really did find Uncle Yun not long after. However, with Yun Ba's warning, no matter how she asked, Uncle Yun insisted that he didn't know anything about Yun Xing's mother's background. Yun Xing had no choice but to give up on the idea of getting information from Uncle Yun. She thought about it again. Her mother's surname was Fox. This surname was very rare on the mainland. Perhaps she could find some clues from this surname. Yun Xing decided to use the local Hunters Guild in the Jade capital to issue a mission to search for information about the family or people related to the surname Fox. As long as someone had some clues, they could contact her through the Hunters Guild. After her inquiries were fruitless, Yun Xing returned to Wushuan Everlasting Hall, somewhat dejected. To her surprise, she met Yi Baiming. Chapter 411. Yun Xing looked at the clock. It was still the hour. She had already heard from Uncle Yun that Tang Yu had been rescued. Yi Baiming was true to his word. He had actually used only 1 night and half a day to rescue Tang Yu. You killed everyone from the Bloody Hand Tycoon? When Yun Xing first heard the news, she was still a little shocked. She knew Yi Baiming's style of doing things. He had always been a lone wolf. Even if he had companions, it would only be Qing Bai and Bu Jiuxiao. Not a single one was spared. And I also found clues to the connection between Shen Wuji and the Bloody Hand Tycoon. Yi Baiming took out a few letters. One of the letters clearly stated that Shen Wuji had ordered a high-level assassin from the Bloody Hand Tycoon to seduce Xian Yu and then took advantage of Tang Yu's drunken state to frame Tang Yu for adultery. The ins and outs of the entire matter were written clearly. Furthermore, in the letter, Shen Wuji had set a trap for Yun Sangxue to contact the Bloody Hand Tycoon. The Bloody Hand Tycoon then used Tang Yu's exile to kidnap and threaten her. Only then did the ins and outs of the entire matter surface. After Yun Xing finished reading the letter, a ruthless look appeared between her brows. In addition, Yi Baiming had also brought back all the people the Bloody Hand Tycoon had killed over the years, as well as some of the Bloody Hand Tycoon's superstitions. After reading these letters, Grand Emperor City, which was behind the Bloody Hand Tycoon, slowly revealed its true colors. Yun Xing clenched the letter tightly, anger rising in her heart. She had never been a bloodthirsty person. Because she was a doctor, she was even more opposed to killing. However, Grand Emperor City had pressured the Yun residents step by step, causing Yun Songlong to suffer for several years. This time, the outcome of Yun Ba's competition was uncertain. Everything was because of Shen Wuji. If Shen Wuji escaped this time, the consequences would be unimaginable. Yun Xing's brows were tightly knitted. Her delicate face was filled with murderous intent, exuding an unprecedented charm. Yi Baiming could not help but feel a ripple in his heart. Thank you so much this time. Yun Xing looked up and saw Yi Baiming looking at her with a faint smile. She blushed slightly. Are you hurt? She noticed that there was a shadow on Yi Baiming's arm. Thinking that he was injured, she went forward to check. However, Yi Baiming grabbed her hand and quickly hid it behind his back. There seemed to be a flash of panic in his eyes. I'm not injured. Those people can't do anything to me. What do you plan to do now that Shen Wuji has not been caught? Yi Baiming had already put the heads of the Bloody Hand Tycoon in a big box and sent it to the later Qin embassy. At this moment, the later Qin embassy was probably in chaos. However, he was worried that he would frighten Yun Xing, so he did not mention this matter to Yun Xing. Scourges live for 1,000 years. The sooner we get rid of them, the better. Yun Xing carefully read the letter again. In Xian Wuji's letter, there were only some daily orders. It did not mention where he had gotten the bottle of amniotic fluid poison. Although the Dark Crown Prince was a black-bellied and cruel person, he was not fond of using poison. The poison must not have been ordered by him. Behind this scene there must be other forces involved. You plan to kill Xian Wuji personally? With your current strength, I'm afraid you're not strong enough. Yi Baiming shook his head. He did not want to let Yun Xing take the risk alone. Yun Xing was about to say that she had summoned a beast to help her when she heard Zhou Quan shouting loudly as he walked in. Young Master Yun, I'm back. Hearing Zhou Quan's voice, Yun Xing remembered that Zhou Quan had been ordered by her to bring Tycoon Jin to various hunter citadels to participate in the competition. He had said that he would be back in 3 months. However, a full 4.5 months had passed and Zhou Quan still had not returned. Yun Xing was also busy investigating Yun Ba's poison and the medical center, so she did not think of this matter for a while. Zhou Quan was here to claim credit. He brought along the cloaked weirdo, and was ordered to participate in the competition. He only knew that the other party's name was Tycoon Jin. He did not know his gender, origin, age, or even appearance. Along the way, Zhou Quan even spoke to the other party enthusiastically several times, but Tycoon Jin did not respond to him at all. This hurt Zhou Quan greatly. He did not know how many times he had ridiculed Tycoon Jin in his heart. He even suspected that this fellow was mute. He also did not know what his young master's intentions were for him to bring this mute around. His first stop was Daoi Mountain Citadel. He had been there once and was quite familiar with the place. In addition, due to the Purple Gold Mine incident at the border of Zhou State, the Sky Expedition Hunting Corps had risen to fame in Zhou State. The Hunting Corps had also jumped 2 ranks from the initial E rank to a B rank Hunting Corps. Zhou Quan's journey could be considered very smooth. However, what made Zhou Quan very depressed was that in the first few days, he was almost angered to death by Tycoon Jin. Yun Xing only said that Tycoon Jin was a new hunter that she had recruited and did not know anything. She wanted it to participate in more battles to increase its actual combat experience. Zhou Quan thought that with young Master Yun's perverted personality, how could a hunter recruited be bad? Young Master Yun must have been being polite. Tycoon Jin's ability was definitely not bad. Who would have known that Zhou Quan was gravely mistaken this time? As soon as Tycoon Jin entered the arena, it was sent flying by an E-rank hunter as soon as the fight started. It immediately lost the first match. For the next few days, Tycoon Jin was like this. In the competition he was like a child who did not know what to do. Without exception he would be sent flying the moment he stepped onto the stage. Those who were familiar with Zhou Quan all mocked him, saying that if such a hunter could enter the Sky Expedition Hunting Corps, it would seem that the Sky Expedition Hunting Corps was just SOSO. Zhou Quan was so angry that he almost couldn't breathe. On the 10th day, Zhou Quan decided that if Tycoon Jin could not even win a single match, he would just take him back and hand him over to young Master Yun. He could not afford to lose face like this. Who would have known that on the day of the competition, Tycoon Jin would change from its usual state? It was as if it had suddenly been enlightened. From the first match, its luck exploded and it won all the way. At the beginning, it did not know how to fight at all. Now, it exploded with all sorts of battle techniques and even some magic. From the 10th day to the 20th day, it went from an E-rank hunter with 0 points to a C-rank hunter. It won a total of 108 matches in a row. Its average win rate in a single day was as high as 100%. The entire Daoi Mountain Hunter Citadel was in an uproar. Zhou Quan was ecstatic. One had to know that all hunters had a little hobby. Zhou Quan's hobby was gambling. He had bet on quite a number of nouveau riche gold matches and lost most of them. Who would have known that in the next 10 days he would win 108 matches in a row? After doing some calculations, Zhou Quan had won more than 10,000 gold coins. Chapter 412. Zhou Quan also noticed that Tyrant Jin's learning ability was especially strong. In the first 10 days, it had been learning the other party's battle skills and magic. Zhou Quan finally understood young Master Yun's intentions. She clearly wanted him to bring Tyrant Jin everywhere to learn how to destroy the competition. From that day onwards, Zhou Quan was like a brothel keeper, valiantly bringing along the red-card hired thug Tyrant Jin, all the way from Daoi Mountain to the north, south, east, west and north. Almost all of the Great Zhou's hunter citadels had been visited by him. As Tyrant Jin's hunter level got higher and higher, his opponents also got stronger and stronger. Everywhere he went he would still lose in the first few days, but after 10 days or at least one day he would start to win. In the end, Zhou State's Hunter Citadel already knew that there was a hunter called Tyrant Jean, who came from the Heaven Expedition Hunting Corps. This person didn't say a word, but he was extremely strong. He could learn any battle skills in one go. It was fine if he lost the competition, but learning battle skills and magic in one go was a big problem. The hunters who were competing with them didn't want their unique combat skills to be inexplicably learned by someone else. Therefore, as soon as Tycoon Gold arrived, all the hunters in the major arenas stopped fighting and were unwilling to compete with him. In the end, even the Hunter Union was alarmed by this incident. The reason Zhou Quan and Tyrant Jean returned was because the Zhou State's Hunters Guild jointly issued a ban, forbidding Tyrant Jean from entering the Hunter Citadel in the future. So, we had no choice but to return. Young Master Yun, where did you find Tyrant Jin's treasure? Don't you know that he's now a fierce character that even the Hunters Guild is afraid of? Zhou Quan was very proud. Yun Sheng was listening on the side, laughing so hard that she almost cried. During this period of time, she rarely went to the Heaven Expedition Hunting Corps and didn't contact the Hunters Guild. She didn't expect that Tyrant Jean, an eternal magic weapon that she unintentionally refined, would become such a powerful character. However, she had achieved her goal of training Tyrant Jean. From the looks of it, Tyrant Jin's strength must have improved greatly. While Zhou Quan was complaining, Tyrant Jean stood quietly on the side. To it, the training of the past was nothing more than a kind of mechanical training. He wasn't a human but a magic weapon. He would do whatever his master Yun Sheng wanted him to do. Yi Baiming was also sizing up Tyrant Jean. Even with his eyesight, he couldn't see through Tyrant Jin's cultivation level. Yi Baiming didn't know that Tyrant Jean wasn't a human, but a magic weapon, so he couldn't help but be confused. Tyrant Jean was Tyrant Jean was Tyrant Jin's Tyrant Jean was Tyrant Jean was Tyrant Jin's Tyrant Jin's Tyrant Jean Tyrant Jin's Tyrant Jean. Jean Tyrant Tyrant Tyrant's Tyrant Tyrant's Tyrant Jean. Young Master Yun, hurry up and get this guy to do the mission. With his ruthlessness, he'll kill anyone he sees. Even if it's an A-rank mission, he won't even frown and solve it. Zhou Quan's face was full of smiles when he thought of Tycoon Jean accompanying his brothers to do missions. Right now, Tycoon Jean was simply a killing machine in human form. Yun Xing didn't say anything. She just told Zhou Quan to report back to the hunting camp. After Zhou Quan left, Yi Baiming was still sizing up Tyrant Jean with a frown. It's not a human, right? If I'm not wrong, it's an eternal magic weapon? Yun Xing raised her eyebrows and gave Yi Baiming a thumbs up. He was indeed a wild fox. Eternal magic weapons were extremely rare on the mainland. Yi Baiming saw through it at a glance. Is it really an eternal magic weapon? Yi Baiming couldn't help but be moved. Yun Sheng took off Tyrant Jin's cloak, and a purple gold man appeared in front of Yi Baiming. Purple gold? A magic weapon made of purple gold? No wonder it was called Tycoon Gold. With such a shiny golden artifact, it was enough to blind everyone's eyes. Yi Baiming didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Little Wildcat's thinking ability was really extraordinary. The shape of this magic weapon was really rich and domineering. He knew that Yun Xing had obtained the remaining quarter of the purple gold mine, but he didn't expect that Yun Xing would use the purple gold mine to refine an eternal magic weapon. He naturally didn't know that this purple gold man didn't use the quarter of the purple gold mine that Yun Xing had obtained. Instead, it was forged from the more precious purple gold wall stone combined with elven hellfire. Little Wildcat, your eternal magic weapon is quite strong. Are you still worried about the competition in a few days? Yi Baiming narrowed his foxy eyes and looked at it for a while. Who's worried? I'm not worried about that old man Yun Ba, Yun Xing said, half in a fit of pique. Yun Songlong and Uncle Yun had already tried to persuade him, but Yun Ba was stubborn and didn't listen to them. He kicked everyone out. Yun Sheng was also unwilling to pry open that smelly and hard old latrine stone. Yun Sheng was angry, but Yi Baiming saw her reaction. Looking at Yun Sheng's obviously haggard face, Yi Baiming's eyes had an additional trace of deep thought. He somewhat missed the lazy little wildcat that was lying under the sun in Banana Leaf Village. However, he couldn't directly help in this matter. After all, his identity was special. Empress Qi and the Crown Prince hadn't made any moves recently, but there were many people secretly watching Wushuan Limitless School. The words "I'm very worried" are written on your face. There's no need to quibble. Yi Baiming's words almost made Yun Xing depressed to death. Night Fox was her destined nemesis. He would see through everything at a glance. What's the use of worrying? I can't help him. I can't cure the poison. I can't help in the competition either. Yun Sheng complained in a sulky tone. You can find someone to replace Yun Ba in the competition. If it's a blessing, it's not a curse. If it's a curse, you can avoid it. Yi Baiming pointed out. Replace Yun Ba? That's impossible. That old man won't agree. Furthermore, there were many people with 2 legs. However, there were only a few 2-legged martial sages in the Great Zhou dynasty. Excluding those who lived in seclusion, the only one who could compete with Tian Kezi was Yun Ba. Besides, Tian Kezi isn't easy to deal with. He knows very well whether or not his opponent is Yun Ba. Yun Xing hadn't thought of this problem before. In fact, Yun Songlong had wanted to replace his father and compete with Tian Kezi. Yun Songlong's cultivation wasn't bad, but he wasn't a martial sage. After taking the purple herb 1000 golden pill, his dou qi had greatly increased, but he was still a martial ancestor. The difference in strength between a martial ancestor and a martial sage couldn't be closed in a few days. You don't have to worry about the competition. Think about it. If Tian Kezi is unlucky and gets ambushed the day before the competition, he might be seriously injured or even killed. At that time, Yun Ba won't be able to find someone to compete with. He's just a martial sage. If you don't like him, you can just kill him. Yi Baiming's foxy eyes narrowed. The corners of his eyes curved as he smiled brilliantly. Yun Xing shuddered. Night Fox's thoughts were too evil. However, she liked it. Thank you Momo and Tin Drop for your tips. Facepalm I'll be out of town for the entire week next week. There might be fewer updates on certain days. I'll make up for it later. You're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.